God, she had her act together. How about the way she called our teacher after texting me so she could make good use of her time waiting at the park?
Senjogahara is going to be in charge after school.
What? Are you sure you're not making a mistake? My girlfriend hated nothing more than working with, and for, others. I could imagine no greater hybrid of the two than preparing for a culture festival. No caution, do not mix, warning could be big enough.
Senjogahara skipped yesterday. This is to make up for that.
Hun. Against Hanekawa, all of Senjogahara's audacity and defiance amounted to nothing. Well, our class still saw her as the cloistered princess, so if asked, she would at least carry out her duties, no doubt. I'm glad you're a good person. There's no one more calculating than you. So just imagine what would happen if you used that brain of yours for evil.
That's not true. As far as how calculating I am, it was pretty risky of me to bet on your cell phone being on. I couldn't try calling you first either, because you might already be on the premises at that hour.
Huh? Couldn't you call and hang up after one ring if you wanted to see if my phone was on?
TFI did. You'd try to call me back, being the principled person you are, right?
Oh, so you'd even seen through my personality. So receiving a text was fine, but calling back wasn't? That was pretty subtle. It seemed like a tough choice for Hanekawa too. I thought I didn't have the time, but now I was glad I'd texted her back at a stoplight on my way to the park. My chat with Hachikuji had been meaningful. Then, if I'd arrived at school earlier, I'd have turned my phone off in our classroom. Well, putting that aside, knowing that someone was in her pajamas flustered me, even if that someone was Hanekawa. It was my first time witnessing something as extraordinary as a girl in her nightwear. Cases involving my two little sisters don't count. Her sweater was the one lamentable part. I could make out only the pants, and just from the legs down, which lacked that finishing touch, or should I say, it had the final touch and nothing else. People talk about tantalizing glimpses, but this felt like starving. Wasn't there some way to get that bland thing off of her? You know, like in The North Wind and the Sun. Hey, Hanekawa.
What?
Or Miss Hanekawa.
Miss?
Allow me to take your sweater for you. She couldn't have looked any more unamused. I had tried my best to imitate a waiter at a fancy restaurant, greeting a valued customer, but the charade wasn't going to be persuasive in an open-air park.
Araragi?
Yes?
You were gonna make me mad.
WT. Point 1, sorry. It was a beam of blinding sobriety. I felt like getting on all fours and begging for her forgiveness. Alright, enough joking around. What happened, Hanekawa? You didn't tell me what the actual problem was in your message, but is it those headaches?
Yeah, the headaches are gone now.
Oh, they are?
Guess you could say they've ended.
Hanekawa was choosing her words carefully. Choosing, or rather, she couldn't express herself without coining new ones. Such seemed to be her situation. I had an idea what it was, to be honest. I did.
Araragi. About Golden Week. I remembered.
Oh, you did? Her headache. That was the significance of her headaches.
Well, maybe not. It's more like I remembered that I'm forgetting something. But no matter how hard I try, I can only recall a hazy image.
Oh, yeah, I'd imagine as much. It shouldn't be possible for you to remember it all to the end. Actually, remembering that she'd ever forgotten should have been impossible for her in the first place. Hanekawa was never supposed to recall those 9 nightmarish days. And yet,
Until now, I'd vaguely known that you and Mr. Oshino saved me, but it's so strange. Not only could I not remember how, but from what it's like I was under some weird hypnosis.
hypnosis, huh? Well, it was something else entirely, but I could see where she was coming from.
I still don't feel 100% about this, but I'm glad I remembered. At last I can give you and Mr. Oshino my proper thanks.
Oh, but we didn't save you. As Ashino says,
I just went and got saved on my own, right?
right. Absolutely right. Especially when it came to me. I hadn't done a thing. When it came to the case of Hanekawa's cat, Shinobu had done the most. If there was anyone whom Hanekawa needed to thank, it wasn't me or Mime Oshino, but Shinobu Oshino, the little blonde.
A cat? A cat, right? I recalled that part, the cat from back then, right? The one you and I buried together. That cat. Yeah, I recalled that part.
Well, you were still you back then.
Huh!
Nothing but Hanakawa. You didn't summon me here just because you remembered, did you? No matter how much my attendance record wasn't going to be an issue, she wasn't going to make me play hooky over something like that. Not only had she remembered, there was something after that, the recollection had to be secondary.
That's right.
She was still resolute despite her situation. People with her kind of mental fortitude really were different. This was in a different league from my conversation with Sengoku the day before yesterday.
An aberration.
An aberration. There was a reason for an aberration.
Yes, which is why I was hoping you could take me to Mr. Oshino's place. He still lives in that abandoned cram school, doesn't he? I know that much, but I just couldn't figure out how to get there.
It wasn't that she didn't know, she'd forgotten. The place had gone under, so a map could only help so much. Maybe it wasn't impossible if she unearthed an old map, but it would take too long, and time was of the essence here. She must have decided that sending me an SOS was faster.
Could you show me the way?
Yeah, of course. I had no reason to say no. Although Oshino was probably asleep at this hour of the morning and we'd be interrupting his slumber, that wasn't something I needed to be bringing up. He tended to wake up on the wrong side of bed, maybe because of low blood pressure or something, but we had to do this anyway. Dash, of course, but could I ask you a few questions first?
Sure, but why?
I'm constantly relying on Oshino when it comes to every little thing relating to aberrations. We need to keep on trying to do as much as we can by ourselves. Even if we end up dumping the whole thing onto him, we should at least get the story straight before we do.
Yes, you're right. Okay, ask me anything you want.
You had headaches, right? You said you've been having a lot of them lately. But when exactly did they start?
When exactly?
You would remember.
About a month ago, I guess. But while they weren't so bad at first, yesterday and the day before I was with you both times at the bookstore and in front of school, they were actually pretty bad.
You should have told me.
Sorry, I didn't want you to worry.
Whatever, it's fine. Okay, then, did you have any episodes involving cats after Golden Week?
Episodes involving cats?
Even something like a black cat crossing your path. Hanakawa closed her eyes and made a show of sifting through her memories. Frankly, I wasn't sure if it was the kind of thing you could remember if you tried, but then again, she was the real deal who lived in a different world. Even according to Senjo Gahara, try to apply common sense to her, and you'd end up hurt, which is precisely why she was visited by an aberration.
On the night of May 27th, I was listening to a radio program when a message by one bear cat lover was read on the air. Could that have something to do with it?
No, I don't think so. Oh my god. I knew, but oh my god.
By the way, the letter went, while maids are shown leading fun and carefree lives in manga and anime, being a maid is a surprisingly difficult job. It's not all about being cute and saying momo. From what I understand, they barely have any time to themselves, I'm sure of it, because that's what I was told the other day at a mixer.
Really? You don't have to explain all that.
What do you think is so interesting about that letter, Araragi? I had a hard time understanding.
It's supposed to be funny because the maid says there's barely any time she has to herself when she's off at a fun and carefree mixer, meeting guys, and why do I have to fill in the gaps that this bear cat lover left in the story for you?
Oh, so when it said told the other day at a mixer, it means told by a maid. I see. It might be amusing if you interpret it that way, but I do think it's a bit hard to understand if you only get to hear it once.
And now that I think about it, bear cats aren't cats, they're more like civets.
Yes, I guess you're right.
Anything else?
Anything else? Well, there was one Oracle's article on the same program. A little while back, I was playing cards with two friends and we decided to play president. After we dealt out the cards, one of my friends said something. So at my middle school, we played with a rule where fours were the highest card. This was a listener's corner, so I imagine it was a true story. But what's so funny about it?
No, when I asked you if you had anything else, I didn't mean other listener letters that you couldn't find the humor in. But well, you have to listen to that story knowing that President has a lot of local variants, whether that means eights are played as the highest card, or that if presidents fail to keep their position, they automatically become the asshole. You're supposed to laugh because the friend used the existence of all these variants as an excuse to make up a rule that would make his hand better.
Oh, I see. I can always count on you, Araragi.
You can be as impressed as you want, but I'm not going to take it as a compliment. Oh, and I guess the handle Oracle's Oracle is also a little joke in that it might actually be Oracle's Oracle, or even Oracle's Oracle, but you wouldn't know for sure.
Oh, but it's not as if every letter they read on that program is hard to understand. Some of them are regular, funny letters. There was another true story during that same Listener's Corner from Ain't Nothing Like a Found Dog. I went to a video rental store the other day with my friend. I wanted to borrow the DVDs for this drama series that aired about 3 years ago, but someone else had rented Volume 8 of a set of 13, so I could only get up to Volume 7. I was disappointed because I'd heard the end of the series is its best part. It was only that 8th volume that they didn't have, while 9 through 13 were all there on the shelf. When I told my friend, "It's like I'm playing 7s and I've been cut off at the 8s," my friend replied, "I bet whoever has Volume 8 is chuckling right now. Huh? Get it? Because whoever has Volume 8 doesn't see it as playing 7s at all."
I'll admit that might be funny, but enough about the radio. But we digressed. Anyway, if that was all she could come up with as far as memories relating to cats, maybe we should consider the current case to be last time's leftovers? We probably should. All right, Hanekawa. Next question.
Okay.
That hat. Would you take it off for me?
That's not a question, Araragi.
No, it isn't.
I know it's not.
Miss Hanekawa, allow me to take your hat for you.
Araragi.
Yes?
You're going to make me mad.
Then be mad. If you want to get mad, get mad. You can even hate me if you want, I don't care. Paying back what I owe you is a lot more important to me than our friendship.
Paying me back? What? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about spring break.
That's... But that was just... That if anything was a case of just going and getting saved on your own, no.
No. Ashino might say so, but I think you saved me. You saved my life. It felt like I'd finally been able to say it. Right. If either of us needed to properly thank the other then, I did. I don't think I can ever pay you back in full, but I want you to let me do something for you. I'll do anything, everything for you. And if you get mad or hate me in the process, so be it.
So be it, huh?
No, perhaps, she cried. I couldn't tell.
Oh, get over yourself.
Really?
This is you we're talking about, Araragi. Do you really think you're so great?
That line belongs to some neighborhood bully. And not to a model student.
Yes, you're right. Don't laugh.
She took off her hat. She had cat ears. A pair of cute cat ears protruded from Hanekawa's little head. I bit my lip in silence, so hard that blood began to ooze from it. Don't laugh. I just acted serious in getting her to do this. I mustn't laugh. I'd finally gotten her to agree after crafting the most serious and solemn excuse I could come up with. It'd be a textbook manga gag if I'd burst into laughter and ridiculed her, but I swore that I wouldn't. Still, the cat ears went well on her. It was as if they were tailor-made to go along with her neat and straight bangs. A thought I first had during Golden Week came back to me. She'd been born to wear a pair of cat ears on her head someday. That said, during the Golden Week nightmare, it was never Hanekawa as herself with cat ears, so she was blowing me away now. I see, I thought, so the color of the fur on her ears in this case was black, the same as her hair. It still was no excuse to laugh. She really would hate me then. I'd said I wouldn't mind if she did, but I preferred to avoid that outcome at the end of the day. It's depressing to be hated by a decent person who even saved your life.
Air, we done.
Hanekawa sounded embarrassed. It was rare to see her cheeks so tinged with color. And she had cat ears. Oh, yeah, sure. Thanks.
Why are you thanking me?
She said, putting her hat back on. She wore it deep and avoided my eyes. It was similar to when Kanbaru showed me her left arm or when Sengoku showed us her body, but Hanekawa's cat ears were on a different plane. To the point where I wanted to thank her. Thank you so much. Well, okay, I think I get it. It really is like we're picking up where Golden Week left off. So, I guess it wasn't all over. The headaches must have been from the ears growing on her head. Easy enough to understand if you thought of it that way. Like wisdom teeth growing in.
Picking up where Golden Week left off? So you mean the stuff I forgot?
You're better off forgetting.
Yes, I'm sure. But I don't know. It just feels so unpleasant to have a hole in my memory. Like I'm lacking whatever ought to be there.
It wasn't a lack that she was feeling. It was probably loss. Don't take it the wrong way, but I'm a little relieved. If that's the problem, there's a way to deal with it. You might not remember, but I went through this once already. All we have to do is repeat what we did and this will be settled. Only this time, we'll be thorough, through and through.
Oh, is that so?
Hanekawa was visibly less tense now that she heard this. Well, of course she'd panic. Who wouldn't if they woke up with cat ears sprouting out of their head, even if she recovered some of her memories in the process? You couldn't blame her for leaping out of the house still in her pajamas. In such situations, Hanekawa couldn't stay cooped up at home. Okay, now that we've sorted things out, why don't we head to Oshino's place? You're not going to tell me that riding two to a bicycle is against traffic laws, are you?
As much as I'd like to, I'll overlook it. But we're even for me getting you to skip school.
Wait, how did that make it even? Both of them were her call. She could be surprisingly cunning at times. Actually, it must have been her idea of a joke. Or maybe you could call it her way of hiding her embarrassment. Shall I lend you my shoulder? You seem tired.
I'm fine. Remember, I said my headache's gone. I'm emotionally exhausted right now. But that's all. My body feels better than usual, if anything.
Does it now? Well, she was a cat. It was the same with Kanbaru's monkey. We walked to the bike parking and unlocked my bicycle and got on me first on the saddle, then her on the back seat. Hanekawa's arms wrapped around my torso, then squeezed. Her body was now stuck to mine. They were so soft and so big. The two sensations I felt on my back mercilessly assailed my heart, whipping it into a frenzy. I confess, it was such a shock that I'm sure I'd have lost control if she'd been anyone but Tsubasa Hanekawa, the girl I owed my life to. And if I didn't have a girlfriend, and also if that girlfriend weren't Hitachi Senjogahara. Tsubasa Hanekawa was a girl with hidden assets. Yes, it was hard to see thanks to the utterly plain appearance she put forward, following the school dress code to a T. But she had an incredible... I'd come to learn that more than well enough over Golden Week. Senjogahara had sat on the very same back seat, but aware as she was, she'd used her innate sense of balance to barely touch me, and we weren't even going out then. Meanwhile, Tsubasa Hanekawa's morals and ethics stood no chance in the face of her devoted adherence to traffic safety. She entrusted her entire body to me, making the situation, quite frankly, no laughing matter. Plus, I'd been wearing my high-collared school jacket with Senjogahara. Now that I was wearing my summer uniform, I was in a short-sleeved button-down. This difference was, practically speaking, a pretty big one. But was that all it took for them to feel this soft? As far as summer uniforms went, I was in mine the day before yesterday when Sengoku sat behind me too. Well, there was the more basic issue of Sengoku's body not protruding much in any direction, but still. And then I realized, oh, right, just as I wasn't wearing anything under my button-down, she was only wearing her pajamas under that light sweater. Miss Hanekawa, are you not wearing a bra? Oh, wow. So these kinds of things really happen over the course of your life.
Araragi. We need to talk once we get off this bike.
The word sent a chill down my spine. She saw straight through me. I was so shallow. Well, putting that aside, let's go. Hold on tight so that you don't fall off. Hey, I was trying to get myself out of it. Why was I digging myself in deeper? I couldn't find my normal footing in this situation. While I was busy throwing myself to the sharks, Hanekawa stayed quiet. Too quiet. Oh, okay. Here we go. In the end, all I could do was coweringly announce our departure before beginning to turn the pedals. With the weight of two people on my bike, they felt that much heavier. The standard routine here would have been the classic, "You're heavier than I thought," and Hanekawa getting mad, but I decided to pass that up too. Plus, she wasn't what I'd call heavy. It wouldn't take too long to get to the abandoned cram school where Ashino and Shinobu lived, an hour or less, if I went as fast as I could, even with two people. Something incredible happened on my back every time we hit a bump in the road, but I chose to pay as little attention as possible to the fact. I wasn't going to intentionally steer us over any bumps on the asphalt. I was a gentleman. Well, then again, I wasn't sure, even if I didn't intentionally go over any bumps. Might I not merely fail to avoid whatever bumps that presented themselves on our way and still call myself a gentleman?
It must be hard for you. looking after so many people in so many different ways.
So many people? What do you mean?
Like Senjogahara, or Mayoi, or Kanbari, or that junior high girl from yesterday, Sengoku. Ah, they're all girls.
Oh, shut it.
And every time it had to do with aberrations, I remember.
By remember, I assumed she meant something like connect the dots.
It's still a little fuzzy, but yeah, there's no way Senjogahara would have gotten over her illness so suddenly. So it started when you were attacked by a vampire over spring break. It all started from there.
Aberrations themselves are always there, like a part of nature. It's not as if they appear out of nowhere one day. Apparently. At least according to Mime Oshino, the expert.
Did you know Araragi?
Did I know what?
There's a special trait that vampires have: fascination. They can use it to enthrall humans.
Enthrall. I didn't exactly know what she was getting at. Was it their ability to suck blood to increase their numbers? Like Shinobu did to me. When I asked her, she shook her head. I could tell she was shaking her head. No, by the way, it moved along my back.
That's their most famous trait. This is similar, but a little different. It doesn't involve sucking blood. If anything is like hypnosis, maybe that's it. Looking into someone else's eyes allows them to enthrall the opposite sex. Though I'm not sure if the opposite sex is the right term here, since vampires and humans belong to different species.
Huh. Okay, so what about that?
Nothing. I was just thinking, maybe that's why.
Fascination. A special vampire trait? Ah, I may not have been a vampire anymore, but it was still entirely possible. It wasn't like I was a dating sim protagonist like Hachikuji, and I had discussed earlier, but that was a realistic justification for what was happening. That's Hanekawa for you. She saw things in a different way, but it'd be awful if that's what it was. I mean, if that were true, wouldn't that change everything about my relationship with Hitagi Senjogahara? And all that fun I had talking to Hachikuji? And how attached Kanbaru was to me? And even Sengoku too. The whole song.
Sorry. That was mean of me, wasn't it?
Not really, I wouldn't say so. Actually, it all makes more sense to me now. Of course. Up until last year, I pretty much didn't have a single friend, if you think about it. Yeah, I can remember those days when my phone's contact list didn't have one entry on it. I could memorize every number I needed. It was a little too hard for that now. Huh, fascination. Okay, you really know everything, don't you?
I don't know everything. I don't know anything.
That didn't sound like her normal line.
You were already a vampire when you met me over spring break, weren't you?
Yeah, I was right in the middle of it. I wasn't a mockery, but an authentic, genuine, full-fledged vampire then. So I guess you might have also been fascinated by me after all, Ao. Hanekawa had squeezed her arms tighter around my torso. Wasn't that a sumo move? A sabori, I think?
No, Araragi. A sababori or a forward force down is done from the front. Also, it's used to bring an opponent to his knees, not to crush his internal organs.
Oh, okay. You're really well-informed. Wait, crush my internal organs? Hanekawa had just said something I'd expect to hear from Senjogahara. Women are terrifying. What if Hanekawa realized that her move wasn't that effective thanks to the two large cushions on my back? Oh, it was my fault. I wasn't paying attention and it said something inappropriate. Hanekawa must have been in a fairly uneasy state of mind. She'd half regained her memories. And now she was thinking about all sorts of things she normally wouldn't to make up for all that was lacking and lost. I couldn't blame her if her head wasn't in the right place. I'd been impressed a little earlier by how Hanekawa calculated everything out from my attendance to prepping for the culture festival. But when I thought about it some more, if all she wanted was to get to the abandoned cram school where Ashino lived, it could have been handled via texting. She only had to ask me for directions. There was no need to get me to skip school and summon me all the way to that distant park. Yet she had. And not because her head wasn't in the right place. It must have been because she felt uneasy. If I'd figured it out with enough time, Hanekawa would have noticed immediately. So it wasn't as if she hadn't. She was just too afraid to face an aberration alone. That made me glad. I probably wouldn't be any help to her at all yet again. The only option seemed to be to ask Mime Oshino and Shinobu Oshino to deal with this cat aberration. There was nothing I could do for her. I could say I'd do everything for her, but from the start, That was nothing at all. Even then, I could be by her side. The simple fact of being there when you're needed is enough. There's nothing more you have to do to earn someone's gratitude, as Daddy Senjogahara put it. If that was the case, the one person who was there for me when I needed it the most was none other than Tsubasa Hanakawa. That's why I decided, even if there wasn't a thing I could do, I'd be there for Hanakawa when she needed it. No matter what, I don't ever change after all. Hanakawa had said that to me yesterday. But really, I thought, there's nothing that never changes. And from my point of view, Hanakawa had actually changed, and quite a bit. She'd changed ever since getting involved with an aberration. The biggest example being the post-graduation plans she'd shared with me at the bookstore. She'd take 2 years or so and wander the world. She was going on a journey. Hanakawa would never have chosen such a fantastic path for herself. At least not the Hanakawa I knew until the end of last school year. She'd been traveling along the hammered-out conventional set of rails for a model student like herself. This isn't to pass judgment about right or wrong paths, but there was the simple fact that Tsubasa Hanakawa had changed. Whether it was after the end of Golden Week or after spring break, that was something I didn't know. But from there, Hanakawa and I continued without talking about much else until we arrived at the cram school that had grown derelict a few years ago and was now serving as Oshino and Shinobu's den. A tattered fence snaked around this building that could only be described as dilapidated. No trespassing signs were scattered all around the structure, making the two squatters. How many times have I come to this place over the last 3 months, I wondered. I realized that I'd become completely used to visiting it. Aberrations were no longer something out of the ordinary for me.
Oh? Why, if it isn't you, Araragi?
Suddenly, I heard this voice ahead of me.
And Missy class president, right? I tend to have trouble keeping track of who women are when they change their hairstyle, but from the glasses I'm sure that's Missy class president. Ha! It's been a while, class pres. And Araragi, it's been a day.
It was Memi Oshino. There, on the other side of the ripped fence, stood a middle-aged man in a psychedelic Hawaiian shirt looking aloof. He looked as shabby as ever, but I also realized it had been the first time in a while I'd seen him doing something outside the building. What was he up to? I thought he was supposed to be a weird kind of shut-in who refused to leave his ruins. Wait, you always say something like, "I've been waiting for you," or "You kept me waiting for long enough when I see you," like you saw it all coming. You're not going to do that this time?
Oh? Huh? Do I?
Oshino was acting somehow unnatural.
Missy class president. It really has been a while, hasn't it, class pres? What's the matter? Isn't today a weekday? Araragi's one thing, but I couldn't imagine you ever playing hooky. Haha, I know. It's one of those school foundation days I've heard so much about, isn't it?
Oh, no, it isn't.
You look good in a hat like that one on your head.
Oshino immediately zeroed in on Hanakawa's headgear. When it came to this kind of thing, you could tell he was a pro.
Thank you.
Huh. So that's how it is, Araragi? His expression was lax, the same Oshino as ever. You really can't go 3 steps without attracting trouble, can you? That's actually a talent in a sense. Maybe you ought to cherish it. Haha, well come on in for now. So Araragi, actually I'm in the middle of something for once. I'm busy and don't have much time.
Oh, really? In the middle of something? Busy? He didn't have time. None of those things sounded natural coming from Oshino's mouth. Were you in the middle of work?
Well, you could call it work if you wanted. But it's fine. You're one thing, Araragi, but I can be flexible if it's something serious with Missy President.
You're being really dismissive of me today.
What do you want me to like you? You're creeping me out, how unpleasant.
Oshino shooed me away with a cold gesture. My vampire fascination didn't seem to work on him, at least. Oh, but if it was the power to enthrall the opposite sex, I guess it only worked on the opposite sex.
Now stop complaining about nothing and get yourself inside, both of you. Come in through that hole in the fence over there. We'll talk on the 4th floor like always.
Yeah, fine. I did as told. In any case, thanks to Oshino being outside, I escaped getting chewed out by Hanakawa the moment we got off my bike. It may have been a godsend, but I was dealing with Hanakawa and her miraculous powers of retention. I couldn't rejoice over being spared. I'd only delayed my inevitable lecture. In fact, I almost started to feel depressed when I realized I might end up accruing interest on that chewing out in the meantime. We entered through the fence and pushed our way into the ruins through the vegetation that now grew everywhere with summer approaching. The mess inside the building was still part of Hanakawa's memories, so she said nothing about it. It may sound like a nasty joke, but Hanakawa really did look at Oshino with respect, making her excessively lenient when it came to all he did, that made him unfit to live in society. That's right. Tsubasa Hanekawa's post-graduation path that you could barely call a path, the idea of wandering the world, owed more than a little to Mimo Shino, who tread an unblazed trail. Not that it meant anything in the end since Hanekawa had ultimately made that choice for herself. But I still had my thoughts.
A Sawarinko, a hindering cat.
Ashino said the words as we climbed the stairs. A cat. A mammal belonging to Carnivora notable for their flexible bodies, sharp teeth, coarse tongues, and claws. They say cats hide their claws, and there's a reason for that, which is the sheaths they store them in. The soft pads on their paws that humans love to touch play a practical role too, muffling the sound of their footsteps when hunting prey.
Also known as a silver cat. They're also called dancing cats, but not often due to another creature with the same name. Yes, Sorenko would be the customary name. A hindrance that is a cat, or a hindran cat. Sawarenko, a cat with no tail, a cat that leaves no trail. An aberration. It's said that cats entered Japan in the Nara period during the 8th century. It's well known they were once used to make shamisen guitars. But yes, cats are now entirely pets, even more so than dogs. They don't catch mice. You never hear of police cats or seeing eye cats. If we were to discuss Japanese legends involving cats, we would have to mention the 3 famed tales of Bakeneko, changing cats. Ha 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 ha! Well, you may be one thing, Araragi, but I'm sure this all goes without saying for you, Missy, class press.
Hey, Ashino, stop saying you're one thing, Araragi, like it's some sort of refrain whenever you talk about Hanekawa. It's actually starting to get to me.
Well, it's not like I'm doing it intentionally, but the truth tends to slip out of people's mouths.
You better watch out next time you're out walking at night.
No need to worry. I'm nocturnal. And I guess cats are too.
He noted as we reached the 4th floor. Hanekawa spoke less and less as we walked up the stairs, and just like Oshino said, Hanekawa shouldn't need any explanations about this aberration. The exact same words had come out of his mouth during Golden Week. But were those memories still there? It might have been Oshino's way of checking. Mimo Shino was a man who never seemed to be thinking anything but usually was. We entered the classroom. First Ashino, then me, then Hanekawa. Then Ashino went back to close the door. The classroom was reasonably bright. It was the afternoon, and sunlight was coming in through the window, though I hesitate to call that frame with a couple of shards of glass sticking out of it a window. Shinobu wasn't around. It seemed like she wasn't on the 4th floor very much these days. Oh, and I was forgetting because of the matter with Hanekawa. But I needed to bring up what Hachikuji had told me about Shinobu yesterday. If Hachikuji indeed saw what she thought she saw. And then I turned around at almost the exact moment Ashino took Hanekawa by surprise and tapped her through her hat from above. It was only a tap, and yet Hanekawa crumpled. She fell to her knees and slumped over, her face to the floor, like her strings had been cut. Hanekawa?
Don't get so worked up, Araragi. You're spirited today. Something good happened to you. Like you got to see Missy Class President's cat ears. Or maybe her in her pajamas.
No tacking on actual guesses to your catchphrase. She'll get the wrong idea.
There's nothing wrong about it. In fact, you ought to be thanking me for ignoring for all this time how Missy Class Prez was on the back seat of your bike and holding her arms around you. And it seems to me that you've already gotten her story. Look at you, you're learning. Almost like that experience with Mrs. Sonda, Lost Girl, Safi and Bashful wasn't all wasted on you. And Missy Bashful's case the day before yesterday seems to have made an especially big impact on you.
So Sengoku had become bashful. That didn't seem like enough to describe her, but whatever. There was no need to correct him. There was something more pressing. Anyway, what'd you do to Hanekawa?
Like I said, thanks to the lessons you've learned, there was barely anything I had to do. I skipped a few steps.
You did what? What did that mean? Could he do that?
Though I'd call it heterodox. There's no time, that's what you said, right? And in this case, as I think you know well enough, it'd be much quicker to have a direct discussion than to go through Missy class prayers.
So you want to go direct?
We can grill her all we want, but no matter how much of her memory has returned, she still doesn't remember. We won't get anywhere. I understand that you might feel upset because I hit a girl on the head when she wasn't expecting it, but this wouldn't have worked without the element of surprise. Okay, your forgiveness, please.
But it was a tough finding an opening. This girl never lets her guard down, Ashino said. Well, that's Hanekawa for you. So Ashino had been studying Hanekawa and searching for his opening this whole time? You said a direct discussion.
I don't think there's any need to explain. Let's do a good job here, Araragi. We're going to be facing off against someone as smart as Mizzy Class President. If we aren't prepared ourselves, well, even I was taken by surprise over Golden Week. But we're not going to make that mistake again. And speak of the devil, she's here already, Araragi. The lust-besotted cat has made her appearance.
Then, when I looked at her, even as Hanakawa lay there face down on the floor, her long hair, normally tied in braids, began to change color. It changed color. No, it lost color. It went from a solid black to a near white silver, as if all life were being drained from it. No words. I had somewhat of a feeling this would happen from the moment we went to visit Ashino, and I thought I'd prepared myself to a degree. Even so, I couldn't hide how shaken I felt now that I'd been reunited with her so suddenly. I really was shallow and weak. I was going to be there for Hanakawa when she needed me, no matter what. Wasn't that the promise I'd made? Then, lunging, she leapt to her feet. The hat flew from her head from the momentum. It flew away, exposing it. Her white hair, cut in straight bangs. The pair of white cat ears protruding from her little head.
Maya, ha ha ha.
And then, she narrowed her eyes like a cat and flashed me a cat-like grin.
What a surprise! I never thought we'd meet again, human. And I see you still haven't learned? Yeah, bad little kitty. Getting aroused by my master's breasts. You're so persistent. Trying to get yourself eaten alive?
A single outburst that succinctly conveyed her character traits and positioning. It marked the second coming of Black Hanakawa. It feels like there's no need to go into a flashback after Black Hanakawa gave such a beginner-friendly explanation of herself. But allow me to invite you to the first day of Golden Week anyway, April 29th, one morning about a month and a half earlier, in part to help set the stage. Back in the days when my hair was still at a vague and uneasy length as I grew it out to hide the bite marks on my neck. April 29th. Morning. As someone who hates any day that isn't a regular weekday, I left the house and was wandering around as usual on this holiday, riding around town on my mountain bike, still going strong in those days before Kanbari destroyed it. Unlike Mother's Day, it felt as if I had a clear destination. But I don't remember very well. And even if I did, the fact that I've forgotten it means it couldn't have been that important. No, it meant that what ended up happening while I was on the road was just too big, personally speaking. So big that everything else ceased to matter. I just so happened to come across Hanakawa. I first got to know Hanakawa over spring break, as I've said many times up until now. It was then she'd saved me, both physically and mentally. I was more grateful for the latter at the time, as I was immortal, but in any case she was my savior. She'd saved my life, and she'd saved my mind. She'd been there when I needed her to be. That's what I think. I really do. About as much as I'm glad that I happened to be standing on the landing that day. Senjogahara slipped on the stairs. I'm really truly glad that it was her, Tsubasa Hanakawa, there at that moment, and not anyone else, and I'd never have been saved. I'd have never been released from hell. Hanakawa and I ended up in the same class after spring break. She forced me into the position of class vice president. She put me under her management because of her mistaken assumption that I was a delinquent, and that was her way of rehabilitating me. There isn't any way she was planning to help me with my studies at the time, and normally I'd have shoved her away and told her to get her nose out of my business. There's nothing I dislike more than people who seem to impose on me because of a big, fat misunderstanding. But I accepted it. Because she was Hanakawa. So after that, over the month of April, Hanakawa and I, as class president, as class vice president, and as class president and vice president, began to get along to some degree as we made arrangements for school events and class matters. I hadn't done anything that felt like it in a while, and I found myself getting uncharacteristically into it, so of course, if I saw Hanakawa walking around in her uniform on a holiday, I'd say hello to her at least. It was the normal thing to do. But I flinched for a moment. A large white piece of gauze concealed what felt like half of Tsubasa Hanakawa's face as she walked there on the street. An injury. Everyone gets injured, but an injury to the face as well as an injury of that scale, that was a rare sight. There was also the fact that the gauze was over the left side of her face. There seemed to be a story behind it. Maybe I was overthinking things. It could have been that my violent spring break was driving me to brutal thoughts. Most people are right-handed, and if they were to hit someone else in the face, their fist would land on the left side of that face, those kinds of thoughts. But even if I didn't think of it like that, how could you manage to hurt just that part of your body and nowhere else? Hanakawa, a third year, couldn't have decided to throw herself into some after-school sport the day before. But as I was thinking, Hanakawa noticed me back.
Oh, howdy, Araragi.
Howdy.
Oh.
And then, Hanakawa looked as though she'd failed at something. Now that I look back at it, it seems unbelievable. For any regular person, maybe it couldn't be helped. But you could call it a major blunder from Hanakawa, the master tactician. Or no, maybe you could call it a success. And if you did, a major success. After all, Hanakawa would have been trying so hard, trying so desperately hard, not to think of the gauze on her face. And so, calling out to me like nothing was amiss, without worrying about the gauze, like it was another day, was a major success worthy of the real Hanakawa. But, of course, it was a failure when you looked at the big picture. I tried to gloss over this. I pretended not to notice Hanakawa's failure and want to say I asked her about something stupid. The same kind of stupid that I treated her to every time we'd met over the past month. Hanakawa always went along with it. But
You're so kind, Araragi. You're such a good and kind person.
that's right, I was told this back on that day too. Hanakawa had.
Let's walk, just for a little.
I had no reason to say no. Well, I wouldn't have ever said no. Hanakawa had never invited me to do something like that before. I'd say she must have wanted company. She couldn't bear being alone. She didn't invite me because it was me. It could have been anyone. It just so happened to be me there at that moment. I probably wasn't the best person for the situation, from Hanakawa's point of view. I doubt she'd have chosen me had she been the slightest bit calm. Unlike Mayoi Hachikaji, whom I'd come to meet later, I wasn't what anyone would describe as a good listener. I'm too quick to become emotionally involved. I can't keep my mouth shut when I'm being talked to. And I interrupt other people's stories all the time. But Hanakawa was a good enough talker to make up for all of that, and more, and was able to take it without much issue. Pushing my bike, I walked alongside her and listened to her talk. First off, Tsubasa Hanakawa doesn't have a father. Yes, biologically speaking, she'd have to have a father, but socially speaking, she was born to a mother who was entirely on her own. Hanakawa still didn't know her father's whereabouts. She had no interest in trying to find out more, but even if she did, she most likely would have arrived at a guess at best. Nothing with any degree of certainty. Tsubasa. The name she'd been given, Wing. The character Tsubasa has connotations of covering and aiding, as in a bird using its wing to protect its eggs or chicks, taking under one's wing. That thought didn't come to me at the time, though. But shouldn't the person who named her have been the one aiding her at that moment? What could her mother have possibly been thinking when she gave her that name? What kind of task had she given her daughter? She apparently had a different last name at the time. I didn't ask what it was. Well, it was more like I couldn't ask. Hanakawa tried to tell me, but I stopped her. Yes, she understood right away, and continued her story. Hanakawa's mother had her, then married right afterwards. She was getting married for the first time. In any case, it sounds like she needed the money. Raising Hanakawa on her own must have been tough. This all happened nearly 20 years ago, so the social welfare system must not have been as robust then either. Even I could imagine how tough it would have been for a single mother and a single child to live on their own without anyone's help. A mother, a father. But right after the marriage, her mother committed suicide. She'd married for money, and the marriage had failed in no time at all. It sounds like she was in a delicate emotional state from the beginning. Like she was the kind of person who found living with others to be agonizing, tuning Hanakawa into a single child, with a single mother into a single child with a single father. A father she wasn't related to by blood. But still, her father. This father's last name wasn't Hanakawa either, and I couldn't ask for that name either. Not much time after her mother's suicide, this father, unrelated by blood, decided to remarry. Hanakawa wasn't yet at the age where she felt any particular way about this, but as a result, she was in a three-person family once again. She now found herself unrelated by blood to both of her parents. I didn't know how I was supposed to feel about that. Was it that unfortunate of a situation? Was I supposed to pity Hanakawa? It didn't do to declare her unfortunate simply because her life hadn't followed a more conventional path. True, her birth mother had ended her life in an unfortunate way, but that unhappiness didn't necessarily latch itself onto Hanakawa. Indeed, you could say she was fortunate to have a father who took her in and to have found herself with a new mother. A lot of things had happened to her. That didn't mean on its own that her life was unfortunate. Sand. There goes a loke and find reschedulings. Intility say. So even if her father died from overwork after that, and she became a single child with a single mother again, only to find herself with another new father a year later, at last making her name Hanakawa, my opinion on the matter ought to stay the same. It didn't make sense to pity her. We might feel bad for her first mother and the first father who died, but only those two. No one else. Still, what a tumultuous life. At that point, Hanakawa had yet to turn 3. She was at an age where she didn't understand anything yet. Yes, all she could do was go with the flow, no matter how ludicrous that flow may have been. I'd misunderstood. Good people like Hanakawa must have been blessed, I thought. They must be loved by the gods, I thought. I'd had the impression until then that good people were fortunate and that bad people were unfortunate. But that's not how it is. Spending time with my family on holidays felt suffocating, so I'd leave the house. I lived the kind of life where worries as lukewarm as that counted as worries. But when it came to complicated family situations, hers was worlds apart. It sounded so fake it was almost comical. I wouldn't have believed it if anyone other than Hanekawa had told me. I'd have laughed them off. But I was at a loss for words because it was Hanekawa, someone who I knew would never tell such a crass joke. And so, after all the back and forth, she came to have two parents with no relation whatsoever to her. A single mother and a single child. A stepchild.
Sorry. That was mean of me, wasn't it?
How did I reply then? Was I able to say, "Not really"? Nope. I asked her, "Why? What are you talking about?" It was like I was forcing a confession out of her. How dense could I be? For someone as earnest as Hanekawa, it must have sounded like an accusation.
Well, I'm just venting at you. What are you supposed to say in this situation, right? You'd wonder. Okay. So what? It's not like it has anything to do with you in the first place, but then you start to feel a little pity for me until you feel guilty for pitying me when it doesn't make sense to, right? You felt bad just now, like you did something wrong, didn't you?
She'd nailed it. "It was mean of me," she said.
I used you to cheer myself up. I tried to feel better about myself by making you feel bad. I can't even call it graping.
It was the first time I'd ever seen Hanekawa so despondent. The gauze on her face might have been adding to it. My image of Tsubasa Hanekawa was of someone who stood firm and upright, who was strong, who was earnest, who was reliable, wise, fair, who was perfect. But there's no such thing as a perfect person. Still, I'm surprised you know all that. Don't they usually not tell kids about that kind of thing? Like, they'll keep it a secret until your 20th birthday or something.
Well, I had some very open parents. I knew about it from before I started elementary school. I really do feel like I'm in their way.
But at the same time, they do have to consider how society sees them. You can't toss your child away because your partner dies. And you can't toss your child away because you're getting remarried, either. I hear she tried to put me in a home in the end, though she didn't feel like she could take people criticizing her because she let go of a tiny little child for her own selfish reasons. What was I supposed to say to that? But it happened, even in families related by blood. In fact, you could say it's rare to find a family where everything is smooth sailing. All families hide some kind of discord and strain.
That's why I tried to become a good girl. I tried to become a serious class president ever since I was in elementary school. And I guess I have. What a well-behaved child I am. Ha ha.
Those words remind me of what I'd hear later about Hitagi Senjogahara's life. Hitagi Senjogahara in middle school, and Hitagi Senjogahara in high school. Is that what it meant, that they shared more than a hairstyle? But the differences between them were just as clear. Because parents might be responsible for what their children do, but children don't bear any responsibility at all for what their parents do.
Maybe not a good girl. A normal girl. People see it as some kind of trauma when you have a complicated family situation and assume all these things about you because of that, you know? I didn't want people to think of me that way. That's why I decided I wasn't gonna let something like that change me.
I don't ever change, no matter what.
I was being a normal high school student, yes?
No, I'm not so sure about that one. Normal high school students don't get the highest scores on national mock exams. They can't live such impeccable, irreproachable lives. I meant it half-jokingly, as a way to clear the air, but
Maybe you're right. Maybe it does seep out in the end. Maybe you can tell when people who aren't normal force themselves to act like they are. Maybe they overdo it.
that's not a bad thing, is it? It only means you're living a better life.
No, it doesn't. I mean, how typical. Because of her birth, because of her upbringing, she's now such a good and well-behaved girl.
Bouncing back from your misfortune to work hard. Bouncing back from adversity to work hard. Yes, that kind of stereotype did exist, but
Mim, well, maybe that's really it in my case.
then, maybe that really was it, ironically enough. There was no other way to put it. But then, that wasn't a bad thing.
What are you up to, Araragi?
Suddenly, Hanekawa changed the subject. Her expression had completely shifted back to her normal sociable smile. Her usual expression, which was what made it so creepy. Think of the conversation we were in the middle of.
It's Golden Week right now, you're not using it to study?
Yes, it's Golden Week. Why should I spend it studying?
Ah, I use my holidays to go on walks. I don't want to be at home. Just the thought of spending all day together with those two parents of mine makes me shudder.
Do you have a bad relationship with them?
It's a bigger problem than that. We don't have a relationship. Me and my parents, and my dad and my mom, too. We're a family, but we don't talk.
Your dad and your mom too?
Yeah, maybe it's because of me, but at some point, it was like neither of them had any affection for the other. I think it'd be better if they split up, but again, society, you do have to worry about how society sees you. They're waiting until I'm an adult, is what they say. Even though they don't have any relation to me whatsoever. Ah.
Don't laugh. You shouldn't be talking about that kind of thing while you laugh. It wasn't like her. But what would be like her? If the normal Hanekawa was the respectable, honorable Tsubasa Hanekawa, was this Hanekawa not those things? Either way, I realized something then. I figured it out. Why I'd met Hanekawa during spring break. If she used her holidays to go on walks, it didn't mean just Golden Week she'd walk during spring break, and more meeting her there that day was of course a coincidence. But there was also a reason behind the coincidence.
So that's why I use my holidays to go on walks.
I do think you're being too sensitive. It was the only thing I could bring myself to say. I hated how shallow I was. A family that didn't relate to one another wasn't a rare occurrence either. What was rare was that a girl like Hanekawa had grown up in that kind of family. Though I was sure she'd hate that kind of rose-colored view too. I felt like I now had a decent understanding of why Hanekawa hated being treated like a celebrity. And why she insisted on thinking of herself as an average girl whose only notable quality is being a little on the serious side. That could have been my imagination talking again. A mistaken feeling of understanding, or something like sympathy. But that's when I realized all of a sudden. The unimaginable and complicated family situation that Tsubasa Hanekawa, model student and class president among class presidents, had to deal with. I understood that. It had been a little too complicated for me to fathom at first, but I now had a clear grasp thanks to her cogent explanation. The idea that her background might have acted as the backbone of her personality. Her excessively serious nature, and how she didn't want people thinking that. I'd been persuaded of that too. But, that didn't explain why half of her face was covered in gauze. It didn't begin to explain that. Wasn't that what we were supposed to be talking about?
Right.
And, again Hanekawa looked as though she'd failed. This time it seemed like she'd failed, plain and simple.
What am I saying? I actually am just venting at you.
I mean, it's fine with me.
Promise you won't tell anyone?
She didn't have to tell me. She'd only happened across me and didn't need to go that far. It was fine if all she'd done was vent. But no matter who she was with, she tried to be irreproachable, to be right, to be sincere, so now she had to tell me why the gauze was on her face, even though there was no need, even though I had no right to hear it. I promise.
My dad hit me this morning.
A bashful, almost embarrassed smile. That too was the same as ever. I only seem to be able to notice these things in hindsight, but I think this might have been the last straw that triggered Tsubasa Hanekawa. Not that her father hit her, but her telling me about it, that I learned about it. If that wasn't stressful, then what was? He hit you? That's... But I didn't realize then. I was just surprised. No, you could go so far as to say, a father hitting his own daughter? It seemed impossible to me. No, I'd never even considered the possibility. I thought it was something they made up in dramas and movies. Regardless of blood relations or family situations, it was something that should never happen. I looked at Hanekawa's face, the concealed left side. It wasn't an injury from too much loving, playful contact. That's not all right. She had to deal with discord and strain at home. That in itself wasn't tragic. Everyone carries some kind of baggage. Just as you shouldn't discriminate against someone for their birth or upbringing, you shouldn't pity or envy them either. Even if they're obvious, noticeable issues, it isn't necessarily tragic or anything that much is true. But not if they get hit. That wasn't all right. Hanekawa explained why. Why she got hit. It didn't begin to placate me, a third party to it, but I knew quite well that you shouldn't interject yourself into someone else's family life. Whether I was placated or not, my feelings didn't have anything to do with it. Basically the same thing sometimes happened at school too. Hanekawa always wanted to be in the right, so it wasn't rare for her to clash head-on with others. She just so happened to clash with her father this time around, and he just so happened to answer her with violence. I thought you said you didn't have a relationship with anyone in your family?
Maybe too much so, or maybe I thought I could start one. despite everything having balanced itself out. I guess that puts me in the wrong. I mean, just think about it. If you were about 40 and some 17-year-old complete stranger starts mouthing off to you like she knows it all, you wouldn't blame yourself if you got a little upset, if you lost your temper, don't you think?
But still, a 17-year-old complete stranger? What was that supposed to mean? Why would she put it that way? They may not have been related by blood, but she lived in the same house with him since she was 3, weren't they family? You're saying you can't blame someone for getting violent? Are you sure you should be saying that? Isn't it the most unforgivable thing you...
Why not? It was just once.
I'd flown straight off the handle. I didn't know why. I was probably mad at the way someone had treated Hanekawa, my personal savior. But all my anger did was chase her into a corner. She was trying to come up with some kind of compromise while I was just brandishing the pure, unrefined truth at her. The truth hurts. It always does. It was just once, she said. If anything, I shouldn't have made her say that. What's bad is bad. What's inexcusable is inexcusable. It was Tsubasa Hanekawa's style to be blunt about such things, whether it was a friend or a teacher. So if she bluntly told one of her parents that what's bad is bad, what's inexcusable, then, even if she got hit for it, she'd have been able to stand tall and remain Tsubasa Hanekawa if that were all. And yet, I made her say it. Why not? It was just once. The words were a rejection of her whole life. They were a rejection of herself.
You promised, Araragi. You won't tell anyone you promised, okay?
Never bring it up again. Not to the school. Not to the police. No more than anyone, not to Hanekawa. But how am I supposed to promise something like...
Please, Araragi, don't tell anyone about this, please. I'll do anything if you stay quiet. Please.
Yeah, I get it. The way she was pressuring me, it was the only way I could answer. I couldn't bring myself to press her any further. Not after being asked something as absurd as that. Not after making her ask me something as absurd as that. She'd rejected me. And if I'd been rejected, I couldn't help her. People went and got saved on their own. That's all. But at least go to the hospital. You put that gauze there yourself, didn't you? I'll admit that you're good with your hands, but even so, that looks a little on the unnatural side.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm not doing anything over Golden Week anyway, so maybe I'll have a doctor look at it. I should get some use out of my insurance now and then.
And also, if anything happens, call me. I'll come and help you, no matter where I am or what I'm doing.
Where'd that come from? Look at you, sounding cool. What do you mean by anything?
Well, you know...
Yeah, I get it. Araragi, I'll call you right away if anything ever happens. Would a text be okay too?
That's what she said, but in the end, I didn't get a single call or text message from Hanekawa all Golden Week. I said I'd be there when she needed me, however. Hanekawa, the woman I owed my life to, never once needed me at that point. She wanted company, but only to vent, to help her feel better. She didn't need me, but I was there being useless anyway.
What she needed was a cat. Dead cat. There's a reason for an aberration.
After that, we steered clear of our earlier conversation and instead discussed our future plans for the class. We mostly talked about the culture festival. As we did, we came across a cat that had been hit by a car. It seemed to be a stray since it had no collar, a tailless white cat. We didn't know whether it was a breed born with no tail, or if its tail had been torn off during its life on the street. A white cat, it might have even seemed silver depending on how you looked at it, but the color of its fur had been ruined either way, stained with its own blood. It was in terrible shape, probably run over again and again after being hit for the first time, and Hanekawa walked out into the street from the sidewalk and picked the cat up like it was a completely natural thing to do.
Could you help me?
No one ever turned down such a request from Hanekawa. We buried the cat on a nearby mountain, and that brought an end to our prologue, the first of our 9 nightmarish days, April 29th. I don't know how much of this first day or of the conversation. Hanekawa remembers she was still herself, so maybe she remembered burying the cat, but it's likely she forgot all of the details when she lost her memories. There's no way for me to be sure. Sadly, her mind is as sharp as a steel trap, so she'd figure it out as soon as I try to check. Now that the introduction is out of the way, the rest of the story is simple. The next day, though I didn't have any particular business there, I was so bored that I headed to the abandoned cram school where Ashino lived, checked up on Shinobu, though her name wasn't yet Shinobu Ashino, and chatted about whatever with Oshino. At some point I brought up the cat we'd buried the day before, not because it was something else to talk about, because I had a bad feeling about it. A sense of similarity to the hell I experienced over spring break.
Araragi. Don't tell me this was a silver cat?
The chat was productive in the end. It let us capture the aberration, the hindering cat that transformed into the white-haired, white-cat-eared Black Hanekawa, named such by Mimoshino on May 7th, the last day of Golden Week, after it had spent night after night wreaking havoc in town to its heart's content. 9 days, it would have been dangerous had the 10th day come. Apparently, a speedy resolution depending on how you looked at it, but we just made it in time. With Shinobu's help, her service then was what earned her the name of Shinobu Ashino. We were able to seal away the hindering cat that had bewitched Hanekawa, solving the problem. With unexpected ease, you could even say. The more complex the problem, the more likely it is to be solved with unexpected ease, because solving the problem doesn't mean it disappears. A trance. Hanekawa had no memories of the time she was Black Hanekawa. That meant she didn't know the first people to be attacked by Black Hanekawa were her own parents. Had those memories returned to her too? That's what I was worried about.
Oh, the issue of her memory?
When Black Hanekawa showed herself a week and a month since Golden Week, we managed to tie her up immediately, making use of lessons learned the last time. Heard what she had to say. It barely meant a thing to us with the incessant mews, meows, snarls, and purrs she used when she talked, and left her bound body behind in the classroom, ignoring all the curses she hurled at us. Then Ashino and I moved to one of the other 2 classrooms on the 4th floor where the man immediately stuck an unlit cigarette in his mouth and began to speak. We were now face to face. It was me and Ashino talking now.
I don't think it's fatal her memories while she's Black Hanekawa aren't compatible with her as Missy Class President. Her memories as Miss Class President would be an issue. I doubt they'll disappear this time around, because unlike last time, she's completely self-aware right now.
Is it bad if she's aware of what's happening?
Not that bad, in and of itself. The problem is that this is our class president we're talking about, Araragi. As you're aware, she's a little too bright. Her brain works about 100 times faster than the average person's. Give her the materials and it'll be easy for her to connect all the dots and construct the memories herself.
Construct the memories?
We were able to wipe out all the memories from last time, both Black Hanekawa's and our class president's. We left her without a clue. We managed to seal that whole aberration away, which naturally meant any memories related to it disappeared too. In other words, when we got rid of the effect, we managed to get rid of the cause too. So it's fine if her memories are incoherent because she doesn't even realize there's anything that needs to be coherent. This time around, though, you could say it'll become a fill-in-the-blank problem. Like some important words are missing here and there from a sentence, it'd be impossible to give a perfect answer, but you could figure out the general kind of words that should go in if you're perceptive enough. Right?
Oh, so, like a language arts test. I didn't do well in that subject, but Hanekawa did well in every subject.
There's nothing we can do about it, but we ought to think of it as a silver lining that her memories from last time won't be returning, though it'll seem more like a dark cloud to her.
We could call last time a lucky break, but this time it was a silver lining.
From my point of view, though, it might be a good thing for her drawing an aberration toward yourself makes it easier for aberrations to become drawn toward you in the future. It's what you're experiencing right now, Araragi, so if it's going to happen to her too, then it's important for her to know about aberrations.
You have to be aware, Ashino said, and maybe he was right about that. There are some things you can't handle without knowing about them first, while other things are unmanageable even if you do. Knowing means you can at least run away from them. In other words, that's how you maintain a balance. But Ashino, why did that thing appear again? I thought we sealed it away during Golden Week. Wasn't it never supposed to appear again?
I didn't say that. A hindering cat, you see, is a bit different from the other aberrations you know about. If I had to compare it to one, it might be close to Miss Sappy's monkey.
Oh, I guess they are both beasts.
Yes, only didn't I tell you last time? To describe it in a way that's in line with reality, the Sawarenko is a multiple personality disorder. Black Hanekawa is the flip side of Miss Class Prez, so to speak. Aberrations are here, there, and everywhere, but ultimately the hindering cat exists only inside of our president. It's only a trigger. A medium, the problem is the stress she bears.
Stress. According to scholars, it is the body's response as it tries to respond to every demand apparently.
By the time Black Hanekawa faced off against me last time, she'd already gone wild for so long that you could say she'd gotten rid of most of her stress, so sealing her away was easy. But seal her away is all we did. It's not as if she disappeared. We may have made the aberration go away, but it's not as if we made the stressor go away. So that thing will rise to the surface again once enough stress builds up like a bubble.
Stress.
The question is what the stressor is this time.
The cause of the stress. In Hanakawa's case, it was, of course, her family. At least, that's what I thought.
Oh, I thought the same thing at first too, but what do you think, Araragi? She just got rid of the stress she finally unleashed after holding herself together for 17 years. Would it really build back up to the same level in a month?
Well, I guess not.
And fortunately, she hasn't been on the receiving end of any violence from either of her parents, has she?
No, I don't think so. The first people she attacked, her dad and her mom, her parents. Things had reverted back to normal, back to a family with no relationships that didn't communicate. A bunch of humans who just lived together. That had to be stressful for Hanakawa. But Ashino was right, 1 month was too soon. Maybe if she had been hit yet again.
We did put a bell around her neck, and I think that paid off. It let us detect the hindering cat in its early stage. See, you can never be too careful. To be honest, though, I never thought we'd actually need to use it. I was careless. I thought that even in the worst case, it would wait until she turned 20. The story I heard made it sound like her parents were going to get divorced once she became an adult, and I'm sure her plan is to leave home by then, and that's why I didn't bother to say anything to either of you.
20, huh? So the opposite of Kanbaru.
The age of majority is an easy measure to understand. Yes, and she'd have become strong enough to keep from being bewitched by an aberration by then.
Oh. Anyway, Oshino, what's this bell you're talking about?
The headaches. She was also complaining about a headache during Golden Week, remember? So I set a little trap, though I should have shared that with you at least. So, tell me again, when did Missy Class President's headaches start?
I want to say about a month ago?
Ha. And they weren't so bad at first, but then, I wonder what it could have been. But it doesn't seem like we have the time to pin down this stressor. It could very well be a mix of multiple causes, and I still understand barely a word that lust-besotted cat purrs.
Even you don't understand her? Wasn't he the one saying it'd be quicker to ask her directly?
No, I don't. We had a lot of hints, but when it comes to the exact details, it's a delicate matter, not something I can make haphazard guesses about. Heh, I guess we're dealing with a cat's brain at the end of the day. But I do also think she might just be playing dumb. We can't let our guards down, because beneath it all, she's misclassed Prez.
You don't want to get on that woman's bad side.
We haven't gotten on her bad side.
Black Hanakawa, another Tsubasa Hanakawa created by her own heart and mind. A contrasting personality, or rather, one that served as a counterpart. In addition to aiding, Tsubasa also connoted pairing mismatched wings, indeed. But even if we did pin down the cause, would that mean much, Oshino? Whether it's her family or something else, removing the stressor is the best way to solve this? Sure, but it's not like either of us could do that. It had been the same way last time? Hanakawa's family problems, how could we solve something like that? I couldn't even imagine what would have to happen to her family to solve the problem. Someone on the outside couldn't step into your personal issues. That would be true arrogance. And unlike the times with Senjugahara and Sendoku, this aberration harms others. While it might be similar to Kanbaru's, it's different from that too. Like before, I think our only choice is to treat the symptoms with a palliative measure.
Yes, you're absolutely right, but yeah.
Ashino was being obviously evasive. It wasn't like him. Did he still have something to say about the hindering cat? No, it felt like he'd been acting off all day, even before I brought this up to him. Something was strange from the moment we saw him outdoors on a sunny morning. What's the matter, Oshino? You're being vague. Are you about to come up with some new fault you found with me? I mean, I understand you can't help me out with this as much as you did with Sengoku, given the circumstances. He'd had to deal with her for a while now, and I knew Hanakawa wasn't a plain victim like Sengoku. Knew Hanakawa was relying on this aberration. Meme Oshino was someone who hated that. Relying on others as long as you need them, then treating them like a burden once you don't. You need to have more respect than that, he'd say. But aren't you obligated to help out this time around? You took her 100,000 yen, and yet we're facing what looks like the same condition. She could practically sue you for breach of contract, since you're supposed to be a professional at this. You needed to give her more aftercare. If you'd told me about that bell you said you put on her then.
Well, I suppose you can say that.
Surprisingly enough, Oshino didn't argue with me. It was an unthinkable reaction.
Though I have to say, Araragi, cat ears do look good on her. You know what manga she reminds me of? Neko Fantasia. You know, with the girl with the cat ears by, Neko Bay.
Neko Be wrote Goldfish Warning. Don't confuse the two just because they both include the word for cat. Hold on. Ashino, are you trying to dodge something right now?
What are you talking about, dodge something? I'd never do something that deceitful. Oh, that's right, speaking of cat ears. Ariel from Dr. Slump used to wear them all the time too, didn't she? That manga was really ahead of its time now that I think about it. A little girl with purple hair and a weird speech tic who's also a robot and a little sister wearing cat ears and glasses, all in one.
I never thought of that, but yeah, you're right. I want to tell you good job for noticing, but does it have anything at all to do with Hanekawa's case? He was trying to dodge the subject. He definitely was. Hey, Ashino, cut it out, and
Kupipo.
is that any way for a grown, experienced adult to dodge the subject?
That's most grown-ups for you.
I don't ever want to grow up. But putting aside resorting to another Dr. Slump illusion, what exactly was he trying to distract me from? I couldn't figure it out. And if I couldn't, there was no point in continuing to think about it. I had no choice but to keep the conversation going, even if I was half dragging it along. Anyway, Ashino hurry up and bring Shinobu in. If we're up against a cat monster, our only option is to have her deal with it, right? I'm sure Shinobu is going to be reluctant, but if I offer to trade my blood for her help...
Yes, maybe. But don't you know it? Disasters always strike at the worst times. Misery always travels with company.
He was getting to be too evasive for me. I wished he would take this seriously. I was panicking. This was about Hanekawa. I wasn't needed last time. But she specifically asked for me this time around, so I had to be there for her. I'd be there when she needed me. Huh? And then, that's when I remembered again right. I'd been meaning to ask Oshino about what Hachikuji had told me about Shinobu in the morning, though I now had a sinking feeling about it. Not that I ever had a soaring feeling about any of this. Hey, Oshino, there's something I wanted to ask you.
What a coincidence. There's something I wanted you to ask me.
What's going on with Shinobu?
Yep, that's the one.
Ashino answered, a refreshed smile on his face, like he'd gotten something off of his chest at last, as if he were a criminal finally allowed to confess to his crimes.
Our Shinobu has gone off on a journey of self-discovery.
It was night before I knew it. I ran around town on my bike going everywhere I could think of, but that wasn't enough. I did a second lap of the same route, this time literally running around town, but still came up almost empty-handed before at last realizing how tired I was. I hadn't eaten, and I hadn't drank. I hadn't rested, just pedaling my bicycle for 9 hours. Honestly, I was surprised. This was how much I had to do before my body got tired, and while I had fed my blood to Shinobu a day earlier, most of the effects of that should have been spent healing my arms and legs. A human mockery of a vampire mockery of a human. I didn't know which I was anymore. Shinobu Oshino. A vampire who'd run away from home. Cool to get any more ridiculous. What's more, she disappeared with only the clothes on her back and not a penny to her name. She'd practically absconded. What kind of vampire was she? Disasters always strike at the worst times. Misery always travels with company. That was exactly what had happened here. Ashino hadn't noticed that Shinobu wasn't around until that morning, but when he thought back, he realized he hadn't seen her since the afternoon of the previous day. According to Hachikuji's testimony, a blonde girl had been sighted near the Mr. Donut by the highway at 5 in the afternoon a day earlier, which would mean Shinobu Ashino was already busy absconding then. She was a child. She couldn't go that far. Only a day had passed and Shinobu wasn't even a legendary vampire now, or anything of the sort. She was, for the most part, a simple child, one with a far weaker body than mine. A simple child, no, she'd be even weaker than that without me. The few faculties she had left would be close to cut off. With exhaustion came hunger. Wait, hold on. That was right, she could have been walking by a Mr. Donut, but she didn't have a penny to her name. Did that mean she was getting hungry, alone somewhere? While I was speeding around on my bicycle, I nearly smashed into Mayoi Hachikuji as she walked on the street, a little past noon, maybe. It was our second encounter that day. As much as I wanted to chew on my good fortune of running into Hachikuji twice in one day by chance, the only way I could meet her, there was no time. Though unlike the first time, this second meeting wasn't pure chance. Strictly speaking, I was running around town with reckless abandon, so of course I'd run into her sooner or later.
Mr. Araragi! Mr. Araragi!
Now you're just typoing my name.
Excuse me, slip of the tongue.
After exchanging our greetings, I asked Hachikuji to give me a more detailed account of what she saw the day before.
Now that you mention it, She did seem lonely somehow.
Lonely?
Yeah. Almost as if she were a lost child.
A lost child. The words were particularly convincing coming from Hachikuji, a girl who'd been lost on the street for ages.
Oh, right. I'll do what I can to look for this girl, too.
Would you? I'd appreciate it.
Yes. You see, Mr. Araragi, looking for a lost child requires careful attention and manpower. Try to do it all by yourself, and the hunter is sure to become the woods.
The woods? I'd be huge.
I understand you're often nonplussed, Mr. Araragi, but stay strong. You can't allow yourself to get too amused.
I know you get words wrong a lot, but you're crossing a line right now.
You must stay calm.
I agreed with you until the end there. But come on, time is of the essence.
I won't be able to approach her if I do find her, but I'll contact her cellular phone if I do, from a payphone or the like.
Do you know how to use a payphone?
Of course I do. I'm very good with mechanical devices.
That's not what you said this morning.
What are you talking about? I have all the tools you need to watch television, even after 2011.
Oh, so by good, you mean you figured out digital broadcasting?
Oh, one Sega is something you have for breakfast, correct?
She's an idiot. All joking aside, however good or bad she was with tech, she must be able to use a payphone, right? I was in the one situation where I felt glad I lived in the countryside, where payphones were still alive and kicking. Yes, this was the town I lived in, a place where every convenience store that dotted its map had a parking lot and even pachinko parlors failed to flourish. Anyway, Hachikuji and I split up. Just as I began to feel more positive, sure that if I met Hachikuji I'd meet Shinobu too, I thought of something. While I appreciated her offer to help, Hachikuji was almost the same age as Shinobu. As she appeared now, I couldn't allow myself to expect too much from her. Yes, there were some places that only children would think to search or hide in or enter into, and she could help in that respect. But while her field of activity might have been far broader than the average child's, it was still limited. She could only do so much and go so far as a child, and meanwhile I needed manpower. Hachikuji was right about that at least. And so, I called Sengoku's home when it was close to 4. She was going to my old middle school, so I knew she'd have returned already, unless she'd taken a detour on her way back. Yes, and I think she told me she was in the No Extracurriculars Club. My chances weren't all that great, but luckily she was home.
Oh, big brother.
Sengoku's voice sounded lively to me. She seemed more energetic when she was talking on the phone, where you didn't have to be face-to-face with another person. I thought she ought to get a cell phone soon.
You're calling me already? I'm so happy.
Yeah, sorry for calling you so soon. Where should I be starting? Unlike when I talked to Hachikuji, I needed to explain everything from the beginning with Sengoku.
What's the matter, big brother?
Oh, well,
Calm down. What happened?
well, you see, I guess what happened is,
Just calm down for now. Calm down. Oh, I know. I'll tell you a funny story.
I couldn't believe she said that. How much confidence did it take to say to someone that the story you're about to tell is funny?
While maids might be shown as living fun and carefree lives in manga and anime, being a maid is a surprisingly difficult job, you see.
So, you're the bearcat lover? No wonder the story was so hard to understand. There's no way she'd ever been to a mixer either. She'd taken on a different persona in her listener's letter.
Did that calm you down?
Yeah. I actually looped back around to being calm. Not that I wasn't calm from the beginning. You couldn't blame me for being careful about what I said, though.
So, you wanted to tell me something?
Yeah. Sengoku, I wanted to ask you a favor.
Favor? What is it?
I want you to find Shinobu. You're one of the few people who've seen her with your own eyes, so to be frank, you could really help by pitching in.
Find her? Does that mean Shinobu disappeared?
Yeah.
Are you sure? She's not out on errands.
She never came home last night.
Oh, is that so?
From across the receiver, I thought I could feel her hesitate. That was right. I'd carelessly forgotten. Shinobu had glared at her persistently. According to Sengoku, she was scared of Shinobu on an instinctual level. I made up my mind, Sengoku shouldn't have anything to do with aberrations again, no matter how indirectly. Hadn't that already been my decision? Regardless of the circumstances, what was I doing pulling her into this? Sorry, Sengoku. I should be taking care of this myself.
And no, it's not like that.
It's not like what?
I just thought it might sound false if I answered you immediately. Let me help. Please.
Oh, are you sure about that though?
Yeah.
Sengoku said with conviction for a change. Could it really be because we were on the phone? Because we weren't face to face?
If I can pay you back that way, then I'll do it. You're searching for Shinobu just like you helped me, right?
Well, yeah.
Then how could I not help you?
So she was going to put it that way for me. How could she not help me? I don't think anything wild is going to happen, but I can't guarantee your safety no matter what. She might have lost most of her power, but she is a vampire.
It's okay. It's fine. Let me do it.
Sengoku, that reserved girl, said it with true conviction. Now I was almost starting to feel awkward despite being the one to ask her in the first place, but Sengoku left to search for Shinobu moments later. I felt like breathing a sigh of relief. I found myself quite glad to have the help of someone who'd met Shinobu, but I wasn't ready to breathe that sigh yet. Sengoku couldn't ride a bike. Well, she didn't even have one. That was why Sengoku never touched a bicycle in traveling to that abandoned shrine the other day. She'd be searching on foot, making her only as mobile and dependable as Hachikuji. Mobility. Yeah, mobility. I felt bad about asking her time and time again, case after case, but I had to now if I wanted to save Hanakawa. To begin with, there were only 6 people who'd seen Shinobu in her current form, and that included me. As for 2 more of the 6, Tsubasa Hanakawa was tied up as Black Hanakawa, while Mi Moshino was busy standing guard over her. That left 4, subtract me and Sengoku, and you had 2. I decided to start with the easier one to deal with, Suruga Kanbaru. I selected her name on my phone's contact list. Her cell should have been on by now, with school already over or maybe not. She'd only gotten one a few days earlier, so it was hard to say how familiar she was with the precise wording of the school rules. Yet,
Suruga Kanbaru here.
as always, she answered the phone with her full name. I'd gotten myself worked up over nothing.
Suruga Kanbari, my special move is holding B to dash.
So that's how she saw it. Not Taekwondo or a flash step. Well, I couldn't exactly call her a liar over that.
Suruga Kanbaru, employed as my senior Araragi's perverted slave.
I'm absolutely going to call you a liar over that.
Judging by that voice and that retort, I'd say I'm talking to you.
Did you really say that without even knowing you were talking to me?
Oh, did the sexy slave part displease you? Well, I do understand. I was thinking of a different, more appropriate title for myself, but I decided to self-censor because it was a little too extreme.
If you found it too extreme, I shudder to imagine it. And hold on. She needed to hurry up and learn how to use a contacts list. Are you at school right now, Kanbaru?
No, I already left.
What? Really? What about preparing for the culture festival?
It wasn't my turn today.
Oh, so your class takes turns? I'm jealous. You guys sound really well organized. Right. Her phone wouldn't have been on if she was at school. So does that mean you're at home right now, Kanbari?
No, not that either. It's not like you to guess wrong twice in a row. Is something the matter? So it's true even the mightiest can fall. Right now, I'm amusing myself by playing fashionable witches. Love and Berry in the neighborhood supermarket's game room.
How was I supposed to predict that? Damn it, she was always undermining my expectations. Couldn't she ever act like I thought she might for a change? I'm not super familiar with that game, but is that actually fun for high schoolers to play?
What are you talking about? Great games can be enjoyed by people of any age. I've already spent nearly 3,000 yen today alone. There's a small line of kids behind me, but I don't have any intention of giving up my seat.
You're acting like a terrible person just because you have some money. What are you doing? Stop right now and let those kids play.
My senior of all people saying the same thing as that clerk who just kicked me out of the store.
You got kicked out?
If someone gets angry at you for real, the only thing to do is get just as angry back at them.
No! You need to apologize for real.
Even if I'm being told the same thing, an order from you is different. Fine, I'll go to the next machine down and start playing Mashi King.
Stop playing them!
It's important to always stay playful, Araragi. It's through play, not study, that we've grown
and built our history as humans. Oh, that's right. Speaking of which, a little while back, I was playing cards with two friends and we decided to play president.
So you're Oracle's Oracle? I couldn't believe the girl. She was so cute that she never became too cute for me.
All right then, my senior Araragi, why don't you tell me why you called?
Right? I couldn't talk to her about anything serious without some stupid banter first, so I'd write our conversation so far off as a necessary introduction. Kambura, I want you to lend me your strength.
Lend it to you? Don't be silly. My strength belongs to you from the start. All you have to do is tell me how to use it.
That was actually cool. It was a cool grown-up thing to say. Even though she was amusing herself by playing video games meant for children, I began to wonder, why did she have such a hard-boiled personality? That, at least, couldn't have been Senjo Gahara's influence. I want you to find Shinobu. That twerp ran away from home.
She ran away from home?
She absconded. In other words.
Oh, okay then. That's all I need to hear. So you're saying I need to strip?
If you're that desperate to, then you're welcome to take off all the clothes you want next time we're alone. We can both do it. We'll make a contest out of taking it all off and showing it all off. You're going to be blown away if you ever see me strip. So please, Kanbaru, hold off on that for now and just find Shinobu like a normal person would find someone. I hate to say it, but I'm putting more hope in you than anyone else. I need you to lend me those legs that can run faster than a bike.
Lend them to you? Don't be silly. My calves, thighs, knee pits, shins, ankles, and groin all belong to you from the start.
That doesn't sound very hard-boiled to me.
What was that? The soles of my feet? Now there's the man I've come to know?
I never said that. She was a total pervert. She just ruined all of Senjo Gahara's careful spin.
You're overestimating me. I'm not that much of a pervert. The words women only train card gets me terribly excited, but that's where it stops.
That already makes you unique.
So you acknowledge me as your perverted slave at the end of the day.
No, I never called you my slave.
I just remembered, speaking of kinky acts.
That's how you keep this conversation going? You do realize we're still in high school?
Fine, then we can say indecent acts instead. I understand that you engaged in an indecent act with her last night.
Why did Kanbaru know? Well, actually, if she knew, that meant...
That's right. I heard it straight from her. She said she engaged in an indecent act with you under the stars.
There's nothing indecent about a kiss, is there? Maybe it was on the far reaches of a scale of indecency. Did I not want to see it that way, because I was a little boy? And wait, Senjo Gahara goes around talking about stuff like that. What an open person. There was nothing about it to feel guilty over. We were boyfriend and girlfriend, but it did feel like she could afford to be more tactful. Did she tell you today at school?
No, I heard about it last night. Well, I say I heard about it, but it's more like she forced the information on me, calling me in the dead of the night and bragging about it for 5 hours or so.
What an annoying senior. That meant Senjo Gahara had been up nearly all night, even if she'd called right after getting back from the observatory. She didn't show any signs of being sleepy when I met her in the morning. Though, did she wear an iron mask or something? You can only be so expressionless. Still, Senjo Gahara was bragging, so it was something to brag about. Itagi Senjo Gahara never struck me as the type to talk herself up, but then again, not only were she and Kanbara Jr. and Sr., they were both girls, so she'd talk, huh? That was a little surprising to learn. He's could be expression of the type we're facing. There is a pedensence and tastic to talk herself up, but then again, not only were she and Kanbara Nask.
Allow me to congratulate you,
Oh, thanks.
but I don't want you thinking that you've won quite yet.
Was that a declaration of war?
Love means never having to say sorry.
Hold on, to me? We were getting way too off track. Even so, she was mobile enough to make up for all my wasted time and more. The strong always have a fundamental advantage. They get to do what they want.
In any case, yes, you're saying you just want me to find that cute blonde girl? I hear you loud and clear. If it's a request coming from you, then I'm really gonna run. However big the world is, only 3 things out there can get me serious about moving my legs. My 2 dear seniors and BL novel release dates.
At the risk of being misunderstood, I'm going to say it doesn't make me particularly happy to be on that list. Actually, no. I didn't want to be on it at all. She needed to make that last one a separate category.
You know,
Even though I go for most any boys love genre, there are a few that I still can't get into. Some of those novels wouldn't get me serious about moving my legs.
Enough! And they might not get her serious, but it sounded like she bought them anyway. But didn't you take your basketball matches seriously before you retired?
If I have to give an answer, then I'd say no, contrary to expectations. I'd tear up the floor in the gym if I got serious.
Sorry, is your body a tank or something?
And, well, you leave behind after images if you move around too fast in a small area like that. Basketball is played with 5 people a team, so cloning techniques are against the rules.
Don't mess with the level of realism of our world for no good reason. Aberrations are enough, people can't actually leave behind after images.
Being called for traveling would be a more pressing issue than the number of players.
Refs shouldn't be calling beginner fouls like traveling if a player's cloning herself, should they?
I can get up to 9 people by cloning myself. If I can just make one more, I'd be able to visualize an entire match on my own.
No, you wouldn't. That's not possible, of course it's not. You won't fool me no matter how detailed your explanation gets.
A request from you is a different story, though. I think I'll try taking off my limiters for once and running like I mean it.
I don't know, part of me feels like it wants to stop you. I wasn't sure if she was kidding. She was as dangerous as a junior could get. A ballistic missile.
There's no point in trying to stop me. I've received an order from my senior, and nothing could make me happier. I'll vow to you right now, I'm gonna run until I can't move another step.
Listen, you don't need to push yourself. I know you're fast. But didn't you tell me before that you weren't good at running long distances or something?
Huh? Oh, don't worry. That was part of my character and background story when I first appeared before I really started to take shape.
Don't say that kind of thing out loud.
If it really bothers you that much, then I wouldn't mind reverting back to those defaults.
Stop talking like you're a video game options menu. Well, when Kanbaru said she wasn't good at running, it was different from when I said it. I didn't have too much to worry about.
Now that I've received an order from you, my old name won't do. Having evolved, I should assume a new one. That's right. I'm no longer Suruga Kanbaru Omega Kanbaru.
Be still my heart?
Incidentally, if a marina evolves, it becomes a mariner.
Sounds both tougher and fouler.
And if a caution, falling rocks sign balls, it becomes a caution. Falling meteor sign.
Hold on, I don't need that much evolution. What would happen if I evolved? I actually wanted to give that a little thought. Anyway, Kanbaru, if you find Shinobu, I actually don't know about you. There is the stuff with your left arm, so I wonder if you'd be okay. No? You'd still be in danger if that's all you had. Okay, so if you find Shinobu, do not approach her, just contact me immediately.
What? You're saying I can't run up and hug her?
No! In more ways than one, because none of them would turn out well.
Hold on there. I can't have you making light of me like that. My life isn't so dear to me that I wouldn't trade it in to cuddle with a little girl.
Well, it's going to have to be dear to you for now. And what's so great about getting to cuddle with a little girl anyway?
How could you need anything more to be happy in life?
You're mad at me. My own junior, mad at me. Over not knowing I only needed a cute little girl to be happy in life. Putting your principles and beliefs aside, Kanbaru, I think I'm the only person in the world right now who could stand up to Shinobu. Realistically speaking, Ashino can't, for his own reasons, okay?
Okay.
Sengoku is helping out too, so fill each other in if you happen to meet. Oh, right. Sengoku gave me your volleyball shorts and school swimsuit to hold on to.
Oh, thank you. They're not washed, are they?
I think they are.
Excuse me.
She'd shouted. She really needed to do something about her characterization.
If foolish, it was all meaningless if they're washed. It's unlike you to allow such a misdeed.
How exactly do you see me? Do you expect me to stop a middle schooler from washing a pair of volleyball shorts and a school swimsuit that she wore?
I can't believe you. How could you be this cruel? You gave me hope, only to snatch it away seconds later. I'd surely have committed suicide by now if I had potassium cyanide with me here.
The premise that you'd ever have any with you is far-fetched in the first place. So it was something she'd want to kill herself over? Is that how she saw herself?
My senior Araragi, I truly regret having to say this to you of all people, but I have no choice. It looks like you're gonna have to pay for this blunder.
Why, exactly? At the same time, I couldn't let this put a dent in Kanbar's motivation. People with power really do have an advantage.
Understand?
Yeah. Just tell me what I need to do.
You only need to once.
Is that supposed to be romantic? What was even going on now? I just said that I'll make it up to you. I'd be happy to pay you recompense. What do you need me to do?
Okay then, you need to sleep in those volleyball shorts and school swimsuit for a night, sweat like crazy into them and return them to me unwashed. If you do that, I'll forgive you.
You realize that actually doing that would make us both perverts of the highest order? Actually, it might make you even worse off than me.
Sounds like a fun path to walk down, so long as you're by my side.
I'm sorry, Kanbaro, but I'm not ready to die with you.
Then I could always make it a forced lover-suicide.
That's called a murder-suicide.
We better think of how to go about this some other time.
No, think better of it right now.
Anyway, you said Sengoku's helping us out too? In that case, it feels like there are a handful of people on this.
Yeah, I know this might not sound very convincing after all the time we've wasted talking nonsense, but every second counts. Please, Kanbara, help us.
Of course, I'm so on board that it brings tears to my eyes. It's not in me to say no to you. I act only according to your orders.
Kanbari said, then hung up the phone. She was supposedly at the neighborhood supermarket, but neighborhood or not, there was only one supermarket in the area. You could call it our podunk town's one lifeline, so I began to feel honestly concerned that Kanbari was now holding B and digging through its flooring as she dashed outside. But it was heartening to have her on board, that nonsensical and unrealistic concern aside. So, on to the last person. The last person with first-hand knowledge of Shinobu, I called Hitagi Senjogahara's number. The phone rang for an awfully long time. It felt like I waited almost 20 seconds. Right as I was on the verge of wondering if I was going to be sent to voicemail, the call went through at last.
I'm not buying.
She opened with a refusal. What was she, psychic? And she'd said no, too. It felt like it took you forever to pick up the phone. Did something happen?
No, not particularly. It was too much of a bother to pick up the phone, and I let it sit in my pocket without checking who the caller was. But it rang for so long that I gave up and checked only to see that it was you, which made me think I didn't have to pick up after all. So I went to press the power button to hang up on you but accidentally pressed the call button instead, and had no choice but to take it. What do you want?
Why would I want anything from you now? What a horrible person. She never showed any signs of letting up even on the phone. Anyway, Senjogahara, could you hear me out?
No. In fact, you're the one who needs to hear me out. So I went to a video rental store the other day with my friend.
So you ain't nothing like a found dog? You haven't had a single friend for years. Now that I know you pretended to have one to write into a radio station, what was meant to be a funny letter just sounds sad to me. And what kind of ratings was this radio show getting? Was everyone listening to it? Everyone except me? Popular culture had left me behind. Please, Senjogahara, forget about that and listen to me.
I guess I have no choice if you're getting down on all fours.
I'm not!
So, what is it?
Shinobu disappeared.
Shinobu, that blonde kid?
Yeah. No thoughts. Indifferent and insensitive. Of course, while she may have been acquainted with Shinobu, it wasn't as if she'd ever spoken or socialized in any way with her, and not just Senjogahara. Kanbara and Sengoku, too. Of us all, the only people who knew what Shinobu was like on the inside were me, Oshino, and Hanekawa.
You went so far as to play hooky to find this girl?
Yeah. Which is why I want you to help out. The only people who've met Shinobu in person.
But that couldn't have been what you meant by humanitarian aid. This morning, you'd never refer to that kid as human. Hanekawa took today off from school.
Senjogahara added impassively. She didn't betray any emotion. I could practically see her ever-expressionless face from across the call. Had this girl really called Kanbara to brag all night about what she'd done?
Could it be related in any way? Oh, you don't have to answer that. Your silence is eloquent.
Even if it is, I'm going to answer you. Yes, you're exactly right.
Now that you mention it, Mr. Oshino did say something about that. The girl did good work during Hanekawa's case or something. Is that what this is?
You need that girl's abilities for Hanakawa's sake, but she's absconded for other reasons.
You have really good intuition, you know that? And a good memory, too.
I'm confident about my memory. I even remember when the Kamakura shogunate was founded.
Only the most generic Japanese history question ever.
In 1192, they formed that useless Baikufu.
What a mean mnemonic.
You know, Araragi, you sound equally worried about the two, Hanakawa and the kid impartial in your concern, even though it's obvious whom you ought to be prioritizing. That's so like you.
What was she saying? I was supposed to be prioritizing. What did that have to do with the situation we were in? It wasn't like what happened with Sengoku. We weren't in a position where we had to choose who to save or we.
I'm not going. I won't be going anywhere.
Hey, Senjogahara.
I need to prepare for the culture festival, after all.
Well, okay, I understand that. But right now
Hanakawa entrusted me with this.
those were powerful words. Powerful and steadfast like a drawn sword.
How could I possibly sneak away? And the more danger Hanakawa is in, the more I'm needed here to fulfill my role.
She was right. It was no ordinary case of being asked to help. Hanakawa had entrusted Senjogahara with those duties under pressure from an aberration. How could Senjogahara skip out on that to look for Shinobu?
Not to mince words, the chain of command is in chaos without Hanakawa here. Nothing is working right. She was dealing with all of this. She has to be insane to put together this schedule, and you're not here, either the one person who is supporting her, honestly. I can't even afford to be wasting time on the phone like this.
Well, Hanakawa was doing most of it by herself. Just how much of herself had she devoted to our class? And just how hard had she worked to keep them from noticing? Did she never show them any of the toil she was going through? She could have easily been swamped with all the work she had, yet she never showed any sign of being busy. Not a single complaint escaped her lips. It was that way with everything she did. What was impressive wasn't how hard she worked, but how she never allowed anyone to catch on. I was right by her, supporting her all this time, and even I had a hard time saying I fully grasped everything she was going through. Honestly, she, and no one else really was the real deal. Though I did wish Miss Hitagi wouldn't dismiss speaking to her boyfriend on the phone as a waste of time.
I doubt I'll be able to go home until pretty late, and it looks like there's no way I'd be able to finish by the time school closes. I'll probably have to take this home with me and work on it there. I'm almost astonished she was doing this much during school hours. Listen, Araragi, you just need to do what you always do, and I'll do what I always do.
Yeah, all right then. You take care of school. Let's make this a good culture festival.
Yes. I'd like that.
The same flat tone as ever. She seriously didn't betray a single emotion. That was still what Senjogahara said, though. Okay, I'll call you again later.
Oh, Araragi. Just one more thing?
What is it?
You'll Sindir Banis. Don't misunderstand. It's not like I'm worried about you or anything, but I'll never forgive you if you don't come back, okay?
She cut the call off there. She nearly took my consciousness with her, but I somehow managed to endure. Oh, God. I really didn't know what to say. Every single time I talked to her, No, I don't mind being told my vocabulary is lacking. I just don't have any other words for it. I loved her so much I didn't know what to do. Of course I'd come back. If she was waiting for me, of course I would. Don't worry, you can count on me. In any case, I had now asked everyone I could for their help. It was the extent of my third-year high school network. It may have only been a consolation. In perspective, the situation may not have shifted by much, but still, my confidence was on another level. I pedaled and pedaled and pedaled and pedaled and pedaled and pedaled, then continued for another 3 hours. I had now been searching for 9 hours. 7 p.m., before I knew it, it was night. I hadn't eaten, and I hadn't drank, I hadn't rested, and I was finally feeling tired. Still, what is Shinobu thinking? Running away from home, really? Absconding, really? A journey of self-discovery, really? When you shouldn't be able to go anywhere. Just like me. It all started during spring break. It all started with my second-year closing ceremony. It was a while ago by now. I learned of the existence of aberrations. I became an aberration myself. And it's been that way ever since. A demon, a cat, a crab, a snail, a monkey, a snake, and then, once again, A cat. A changing cat, a hindering cat. Black Hanekawa, another Tsubasa Hanekawa. In most cases, cat monsters turned into humans. Countless legends all went the same way. It first eats an old lady, changes into that old lady, enters her house, then eats everyone else. A cat changes into a human, and then eats them. But a hindering cat did the opposite. No. Perhaps you could call it an interpretation of the same legends from a different angle. Cases where a cat doesn't change into a human, but where a human changes into a cat. Cat monsters who turn into humans are spotted because of their odd behavior, but with hindering cats, that unnatural behavior is understood as a case of multiple personalities. If you focused on only that element, it was similar to cases of foxes possessing humans. There's a way that most folk tales about hindering cats go night after night. A virtuous wife turns into a harlot and walks the streets. Then a traveling monk, or maybe a warrior, or maybe a hunter, declares that it's the work of a cat monster and takes action only to discover it was just the wife all along. If you were to take only the ending of the stories into consideration, then yes, at no point does a cat ever appear in the tale. The reader is given a little peek at a white cat with no tail, but it's nothing more than a plot conceit, or something used to make the story more engaging. But the theme, the anchor, is humanity itself. The obverse and reverse sides of humans. Hanekawa in reverse, the black, awful, Tsubasa Hanekawa. No, should that be white? Either way, there was no arguing she'd been consumed, but I wanted to hear what Kanbaru had to say. The hindering cat and Kanbaru's monkey did seem similar, though they were probably only similar and not the same. The biggest difference was that all the monkey had done was grant Suruga Kanbaru's wishes according to a fair and reasonable contract, while the hindering cat was on Tsubasa Hanekawa's side, thoroughly and through, unconditionally and without reserve. During Golden Week, it attacked me, Oshino, and even Hanekawa herself in the end, with both malice and hostility. But even that was for Hanekawa's sake. It may not have been what she wanted or wished for, but the cat was on her side. It wasn't just on her side, it was her, after all. That was the difference with Kanbaru's monkey. Kanbaru, she'd still be running around. But she hadn't called. No one had called. We hadn't just failed to find our first hint. We were clueless. What did it mean? A blonde girl would be the most conspicuous person in the entire town, yet we didn't even have an eyewitness. Could she have already skipped town somehow? No, her legs were a child's, at least they should have been. She shouldn't be able to do anything without me at her side. I looked up at the sky. Night. No trace left of dusk. There were stars in the sky. It was nothing like the one I'd seen the night before by the observatory. Even so, the stars were pretty. I had a feeling I'd be making a habit out of looking up at the sky since it was a memory that I shared with Senjo Gahara. Everything, so she said. That's about everything I can give you. But no, she was wrong. Just look. She'd given me these memories. Not only of that starry sky of it all from our first contact on the stairs to the present moment. Memories. And memory. Hanekawa's memory would never be wiped again. Personally, I thought losing all memory of ever getting involved with an aberration might be for the best, but maybe Oshino was right in the end. Not just in the way he meant. Me, too, I didn't want to forget, either. That spring break. That hell. It all started from there, after all. Shinobu Oshino. I'd find her, no matter what. I'd find her, and I'd show her. I decided to be responsible for you for the rest of my life. Okay, that's enough of a break. I started pedaling again. I'd recovered most of my stamina from the breather. I really did have an absurd body. The stars in the sky aside, it was getting to be late. A little longer and I'd need Sengoku, a middle schooler, to go back home. We were already short-handed, and that would cut down on our forces. Filing a police report about a missing child was out of the question. Given the circumstances, the night part was a little concerning too. It goes without saying that vampires are night walkers. You couldn't call Shinobu a vampire any longer, but it was true that her activities were less limited at night. As it deepened, so did her powers. And so did the danger. It was past 7 now. The next 2 hours were crucial. I need to hurry, I thought, standing up from my bike saddle and pedaling as hard as I could, until with a thunk, both of my pedals grew heavy and my speed dropped like a car whose emergency brake had been pulled. I thought I'd broken my bike at first after going too hard on it. Either my chain had broken or my tires had blown, but that wasn't the case. Someone had jumped onto my back seat. No, someone might not be the right word. If I had to say, it was a cat. Right? Just like vampires, cats were nocturnal too. White hair, cat ears, still in her pajamas, a woman I knew well. She'd taken her glasses off. She saw well in the dark. The look she was giving me, though, was awful. And it wasn't just her eyes. Her entire expression was so sour that I couldn't believe she could make it with her face. She'd taken off her long-sleeve sweater. She must have felt hot. So, the north wind and the sun was right after all. I finally happened to get a glance at Hanekawa in her pajamas from head to toe. but I'd have been twice as happy had she not been in her present state. And so, Black Hanakawa was there. Why are you here?
Raleigh now.
Answer me. I didn't want to hear some fake cat sound in reply. We'd placed Black Hanakawa under tight bonds in that abandoned cram school and under Ashino's tight watch. So why?
Don't be such a sourpuss, human. Raleigh?
And I'm not going to let you pussyfoot around my question.
No particular reason. So stop giving me that fishy look, human. Not sure why, but I clawed myself out of those ropes like it was nothing when I was pawing around just a minute ago.
Just a minute ago. Oh right, she was nocturnal. Even during Golden Week, it was always around noon when a small bit of Hanakawa, as Hanakawa managed to resurface. This aberration's power and control was overwhelmingly stronger at night. That was another thing it had in common with Kanbaru's monkey. It probably didn't mean anything. She was laughing for no reason. She had the intelligence of a cat. Too, Ashino had said something about her being Missy class president underneath, but it didn't seem that way to me. In her current state, Tsubasa Hanakawa didn't seem to have any reverse side. Actually, no. This already was Hanakawa in reverse. If she had any, it'd be her obverse side. But what about Oshino's standing guard?
I'm a cat. Moving around without making a sound is kitty's play to me.
Now that you mention it, I guess you're right. Ashino was proving to be incredibly useless this time around. It wasn't like him. His odd demeanor when we first arrived at the abandoned cram school and the evasiveness he'd showed thereafter could be attributed to Shinobu's disappearance. He must have been outside looking for her. But letting Black Hanakawa escape so easily, it seemed unthinkable. It was right after Shinobu had run away. He wasn't the kind of man to make the same stupid gaffe twice in a row. Wait, don't tell me he'd done it on purpose. Had he freed Black Hanakawa? Did he tie her up in knots that were only strong enough to keep her there during the day? The hindering cat's words clawed myself out of them like it was nothing, supported the idea, and pretend not to notice as she got away? She must have pinned down my location simply through her smell and her hearing. That was how cats hunted. The question, though, was why she'd come to me after being freed, the reason, not the method. If Ashino had intentionally allowed her to escape, that of course made this yet another instance of things going exactly as he and his know-it-all attitude dictated. But if so, why? Another reason I didn't understand. One thing I did know was that he'd used a heterodox method, or whatever he wanted to call it, to summon the hindering cat by force because he didn't have time, because he wanted to talk to it directly. He claimed that she made just as little sense to him as she did to me, but he was a master of self-effacement. Could he have found a hint in her incoherent babble, or at least a trace of one? Hey, cat. I got off my bike, held its handlebars with one hand, and turned to face Black Hanakawa, who sat on my back seat, only to involuntarily swallow the words I was about rain down on her. I was left speechless. Wow. I could see every curve in her body now that she'd taken off that sweater. I'm talking up the fact that she was in pajamas, but come to think of it, they were just pajamas. Even so, she was impossibly hot. Forget what I said earlier about potentially being twice as happy. I mean, the slightest movement and her breasts were bouncing everywhere. Boingy. Boingy. That onomatopoeia isn't a sound a human body should ever make. Forget about moving the story forward, forget about narrative coherence. I wanted to throw it all out and spend all night jumping rope with her. Kanbaru might talk dirty, but Hanakawa's body, plus she had cat ears. It scared me just to imagine her with black hair. I understood that physical sex appeal was an absolute necessity for continuing the species, but was there any need to go this far?
What's the Myatter?
Then again, she went on her Golden Week rampage in her underwear. This was way easier in comparison. No matter how much of Hanakawa's memory returned, that one needed to stay erased from her brain for eternity. Okay, cat, repeat after me. Now, the manic maniac mused, mentally mangling mammalian memories naturally atrophied.
Meow, the Mayanik Mayanalayak mused, Menatli Mayangling Mayanmei, many all marries my naturally meow trophied.
So damn cute. I'd managed to use my love of cat talk to find a replacement for jumping rope. A brilliant call if I do say so myself. Wait, no. I was going to ask you what you're here for.
That must be your way of meowing hello to persontia with my help, human. Why else would I have come?
To help me?
Don't be mistaken. Human, I'm not interested in fighting ya any longer. Didn't I tell you that a minute ago?
A minute ago. Oh, she meant this morning. Who calls half a day earlier a minute ago? That's an aberration for you. Their grasp on time is just No, maybe it was best to think of it here as a cat's intellect being unable to grasp the concept of time. Plus, did you ever tell me that?
Oh, Maybe not. It doesn't Maybe anyway because I just did. I don't intend to go on any rampage this time. I'm not in that kind of mood today.
Could I believe her? There was no way I could if I took last time into consideration, but on the other hand, that was the normal way to look at it. Trying to read too much into what this cat said left you looking like a fool. If she said it wasn't her intention, then maybe it wasn't. And if she said she was here to help, then she really was here to help. But why? You're like, Hanekawa's stress, right? A second personality she has that manifested to reduce her stress. That was how the nightmare started. She attacked her parents, she attacked innocent bystanders in town, she went on an unfettered rampage. She was utterly audacious about it too. It wasn't quite as bad as the hell that was my spring break in terms of damage, but the hindering cat may have surpassed even the vampire in terms of dread. She indiscriminately attacked people with all the drive of an adolescent boy who hid at school until night, in order to smash all its windows, unable to hold it in any longer. It was a preposterous stress relief method.
So don't get the wrong idea. I still feel like thanking ya. Normally, it would have taken a year to relieve my Meowster's stress, but it only took 9 days thanks to you.
Oh, so you could look at it that way too, of course. From the hindering cat's point of view, all she cared about was venting Hanekawa's stress. So no matter how simple, hasty, or efficient, the method, it didn't matter. To the very end, aberrations were logical. Ah. So you want to find Shinobu as soon as possible too. You're saying our interests align.
Precisely.
Okay, in that case, your help is exactly what I need.
Maya, huh? So you could say that my offer to ya is the cat's pajamas?
The Hanekawa I knew would never look so triumphant over that obvious and stupid of a joke, but this was Hanekawa's flipped personality. It was kind of depressing. Well, I'm more interested in your feline senses of smell and hearing. You fought her before, so you ought to know her scent and her voice. All you need to do is track those.
Alrighty.
I'm going to drive around at random, so let me know if you notice something, okay? I got back on my bike, with Black Hanekawa on its back seat. It might be a lie to say that I didn't have a single wicked thought in my mind at that moment. Okay, it would be a lie. That plump sensation from when I rode with Hanekawa that morning was still fresh in my mind, but my vulgar motives were met with instant karma of the highest order. Gah. I reflexively fell from my bike and the momentum caused it to crash to the ground as well. Only one person, no, cat survived, Black Hanekawa, who dexterously sprang into the air, spun, and made a clean landing. That's a cat for you. This was no time to be impressed, though.
What's the matter, human?
Ah, gah. The hindering cat hindered in more ways than one. To give a modern name to a particularly notable characteristic of this type of cat monster, they were able to drain one's energy. In this way, she was less like a cat monster and more like a succubus, incubus, or jurei. She was a lust-besotted cat, an aberration that consumed humans those she touched found their strength and vitality sucked dry. There was no case of it being bad enough to kill someone, but at the very least she did send some people to the hospital over Golden Week. She sent 2 people to the hospital, Hanekawa's parents. Of course, they were discharged in 3 days or so. This was the aberration that had fully embraced me as she sat on my back seat. It was only for a moment, and while you could write off whatever small bit of resistance there was, Black Hanekawa, unlike Golden Week, was now wearing proper clothes. Pajamas, though they may have been. So I wasn't sucked dry in an instant, but I was wearing light clothing myself, which meant I took an incredible amount of damage. Just as I thought I had recovered my stamina, it had disappeared again in a flash. Energy drain. Still, allow me to say this. I may have fallen, but I had no regrets. I started to think that I might really be misunderstood if I kept saying those kinds of things. It wasn't that I was trying to be considerate of anyone in particular, but Senjo Gahara did have an awfully good sense for it. You can never be too careful.
Oh, I get it, human. My master's breasts felt so wonderful you're writhing with pleasure.
I'll admit that I'm stupid, but you're pretty stupid too. Did she not understand her own abilities? The hindering cat's ability to drain energy was always on, activating whenever direct contact was made. It had nothing to do with the cat's intentions.
Well, human, if you're that desperate for it, I'll let you massage these breasts if we can agree to some conditions.
Stop trying to sell your master's chastity, you lustful cat.
1 pack of bonito flakes ago.
What a bargain! It was such a cheap price to pay for Tsubasa Hanekawa's chastity. If that was really the offering price, I'd pay 60 years worth up front for an exclusive contract.
What's the myatter? Then one catnip? No, one cat food.
Change the unit all you want, it won't matter. You need to say a number bigger than 1, or can you only count that high? What a strange feeling. I was conversing normally with someone I could have died fighting over Golden Week, not too long ago. Then again, aberrations were all about how you approached them, how you dealt with them, I guessed.
You're kind of a nasty person treating me like an idiot. Fine then, human. It's time to decide who's the bigger idiot.
Why would I want to do something that pointless?
The event will be a match of shogi.
If 2 idiots faced off in a serious shogi match, the result would be so lame it'd hurt to watch. Shogi chess. As far as contests of skill that everyone knows how to play but few have mastered, shogi was right up there with baseball in Japan.
Then how about this? A game where whoever pauses a stopwatch at precisely 1 second wins.
How dull can you get? And wait. You couldn't measure intelligence that way. I picked my bike up off the ground. Trusty old granny bike that it was oddly sturdy, suffering only a bent basket. Nothing was broken. All right, I think we should walk around looking for her together, after I park my bike somewhere around here. It'll be slower going, but we'd be more thorough that way. Okay.
Meow.
Her blonde hair won't make her any easier to find with human eyes, now that it's this dark out. So I'm counting on you, okay?
Count on me!
I began walking, pushing my bike along. Black Hanekwa followed behind me. No, she overtook me and walked in the front, as if to lead. She really was a stupid cat. Maybe some instinct made her want to run past anything that moved. The cat and the aberration were inseparable, apparently. In that sense, I could call the cat monster the easiest aberration of all to understand. It was definitely the best known one I had encountered until that point, aside from vampires. Well, I got cat monsters in general, but I, with my limited information, hadn't heard of the identifier that was hindering cat until Golden Week. But I wondered, what would it look like if an objective bystander saw me walking alongside Black Hanekawa, a high school boy walking alongside a young cat-eared maiden? How would they see me? No one could ever think the cat ears were real, and walking around in her pajamas was way better than walking around in her underwear. But maybe it would have been a good idea to head back to the abandoned cram school for now to grab her hat and sweater. Then again, putting clothes on any beast, not just a cat, was a Herculean undertaking. It was a miracle in itself that she hadn't taken off those pajamas. Oh, whatever, it wouldn't mean anything to worry about it now. There were already rumors about me walking arm in arm with Suruga Kanbaru, our second-year star. Adding a rumor about me walking around with a cat-eared beauty to that didn't really change anything. I could deal with Kanbaru and Hachikuji, and though it'd be hard to come up with an excuse to tell Sengoku, what happens happens. Our top priority now was to find Shinobu. It was Hanekawa's honor I was concerned for, if anything. Then again, the pajamas might just barely pass as street clothes, plus she had her glasses off, and she had a different hairstyle, and most importantly, her hair had changed from black to white. No one would think I was with Hanekawa unless they knew what was going on. No amount of dye or bleach could do this good of a job on someone's hair color. Her facial expressions were totally different too. Even I didn't know who Black Hanekawa was when I first saw her during Golden Week. If not for the shape of her hips, no, it was only because she'd saved my life that I was somehow able to pin down her identity. Plus, this was also Tsubasa Hanekawa, another Hanekawa. She had 2 sides, and this was the reverse side.
Hey, human. Refresh my memory. What was it you wanted me to do again?
The intelligence of a cat. Should I be relying on her? We reached a bookstore after walking for a bit. The bookstore that boasted the largest selection in town. The same one where Hanekawa and I had picked out study aids together the other day. The store was still open, so while it pained me to park my bike there when I wasn't going to be doing any shopping, I had no choice. I decided to put it there. We departed once again. Still no traces of Shinobu's scent. Speaking of scents, I could imagine a cat's sense of smell being better than a human's. But how much better was it if you were to quantify it? Not as good as a dog's, I assumed.
Hey, human.
What is it, cat monster?
Seems a lot happened after you battled it out with me between you and us.
What did Oshino tell you? Did he talk to her while he kept watch? It would be like him. He did like to talk. Yeah, a crab, a snail, a monkey, and a snake.
That my ex knew.
Only the monkey and snake part. What about the crab and the snail? Where did those go? And wait, stop saying whatever pops into your head. My image of Hanekawa was growing worse and worse. I wished she'd show me at least a glimpse of her intelligence. And I'm a demon.
Meow. Human, you call us aberrations, but what do you think about them?
What do I think about them? So her nocturnal nature did make her a little more coherent at night. It was the same way last time too, but the changes weren't drastic. What could the question mean? It was a vaguely worded sentence.
Well, human, if you think you've gotten used to us, I need to drag you by the scruff back to reality. Aberrations are aberrations. Humans are humans. Ni ever together. They can't get along no matter what.
I don't really understand. What is it you're trying to tell me?
Well, that's because you're stupid.
No one could hurt me more with those words than you.
You naya what they say about hurt feelings. Meow? Or what do they say?
Don't run your mouth if you can't come up with anything. It's painful to watch someone incapable of a snappy line trying to say something smart. Our conversation was going nowhere. What we were even talking about anyway. So are you trying to say that it's impossible for me to get used to aberrations? I guess I do feel that way. I'm left speechless and looking like a loser every time I deal with one. It's as pathetic as it gets. Things never go for me like they do for Ashino. Me Moshino. A professional and authority on transformed creatures. It was strange when I thought about it. How did he ever start down that path? I knew next to nothing about his background. Oh, maybe he said something about having gone to a Shinto university, but I didn't know how much of his resume I could believe. He was the sort who made things up to suit the occasion.
Neo, that's Neo what I want to say, for example, human. Can you imagine why that vampire could have hightailed it?
Not at all.
Ah, so that's how little you understand about us? And that's probably why Hawaiian shirt tends to be right. He knows the difference.
Knows the difference.
He knows what he's nigh owed.
Offer a hand without knowing what you're doing, and you'll get burned. Was that what she meant? I hadn't just offered a hand, I'd offered my neck. In that case, there really wasn't anything I could do. I was at the whim of the waves. I couldn't claim to have gotten used to anything. Especially when it came to Shinobu, a legendary vampire descended from a noble bloodline. Did you hear about me and Shinobu from Oshino? You say all that, but do you really understand our relationship?
Nio that well I may have heard, but I already forgo. I don't understand, to say the least.
Well, that's awfully casual of you.
Maybe, but I get it in large part. But when I say large part, I'm not meowing about my master's breasts, mroke?
I couldn't detect the slightest bit of intelligence from that joke. She wasn't being dirty, she was just being vulgar.
Aberrations understand aberrations best. We're the same, after all.
The same? They seemed like very different types of aberrations. They were the same in that both were inhuman? No, that wasn't it. The same being aberrations, huh?
I'm not saying anything difficult. I can't say anything difficult anyway. Listen, human, that word aberration says it all. Aberrations, creatures that are aberrant, meow, different from humans. That's why you can't get used to us. If you did, there'd be nothing aberrant about us anymore. People need to believe in us, fear us, dread us, loathe us, revere us, respect us, hate us, shun us, and pray to us. But get used to us? Not gonna happen?
If you want to treat us like friends, no thanks, is how Black Hanekawa summarized it. For some reason it felt like I'd been warned. But when I thought about it, she was right. The boundaries between us might have become fuzzy for me because I'd once become more than half aberrant myself. Being overly conscious of it was an issue, but not being conscious of it at all was also an issue. Shinobu, somewhere down the line hadn't I started treating her as a simple kid? I'd never refer to her as human. But hadn't I been thinking of her that way? Hey, wait, hold on, don't tell me, is that why? Meow? It's because I saw Shinobu in that kind of way that Shinobu, as an aberration, decided to disappear. A vampire. But a mockery of a vampire. It would have been a challenge to her identity. And strangely enough, Oshino had something similar. A journey of self-discovery. Did Shinobu no longer know who she was? She couldn't comprehend her head.
Perhaps or perhaps not. I wouldn't know those kinds of details. I might be the same, but I'm also different. But human, there's one thing you should remember. What was it again?
You forgot it yourself.
Right, that's it. We might be here as a matter of course, but as soon as people think that's a matter of course, we become mere reality.
Demons would be mere blood disorders. Cats would be mere multiple personalities. Crabs would be mere illnesses. Snails would be mere lost children. Monkeys would be mere slashers. Snakes would be mere pain. Aberrations would be mere reality. And we'd end up saying something dull like, there's no room in our scientific society for aberrations?
Niobe, we just wouldn't be able to maintain the same forms we'll be here always and forever, so long as you humans are around.
And that's how you've come all this way, alongside humans.
Precisely.
Precisely, she said, the hindering cat.
Still, I haven't gotten a sniff of her.
Oh, you're talking about Shinobu's scent, no tracks, either?
I should pick up on it in Neo time at all. She's got a unique scent. Hey, human, are you sure that vampire really left?
Yeah, I'm sure of that much. She's been spotted at least once.
Oh, so Neo-chance, she just pretended to leave and hid inside those ruins.
That's pretty smart, coming from you. I never considered that one.
What if she left once, then came back? That place is so full of her scent she could camouflage herself there.
I'm pretty sure Ashina would notice if that was the case. Camouflage, huh? Hold on, I'm about to come upon something. What was it? I lost the thread. How could I complain about the cat monster at this rate? It really was going to become a contest to see who was the bigger idiot. Did I have the intelligence of a cat? Oh, right. Why don't we try going to where Shinobu was spotted? It'll take us off this path, but we can head to the Mr. Donut, and then we just have to follow Shinobu's scent from there.
I'm Miyot exactly following her scent, though, strictly speaking, I don't rely on the intensity of a scent.
You don't?
To be honest, I went to look for the vampire alone after sneaking out of the building, so I probably went by that Mr. Donut too.
Seriously? You need to tell me that kind of thing sooner. So we needed to change course. If we were searching for her scent, there was no point in searching a place that had already been searched.
Sorry, I forgot.
Now I felt an urgent need to obstinately go back and forth along our path, checking it again and again.
The scent vanished along the way.
Vanished?
It wasn't possible to follow her any further. So, human, a question. How much of her vampire powers can that vampire use right now if she can disappear, reappear, and turn into shadows and darkness? Then I'll be honest, I won't be able to find her.
It's safe to assume that she can barely use any of her powers as a vampire right now. They're close to fully limited, and even if she somehow manages to use them, she only can when I'm around. She'd be able to do a little bit, since I fed her my blood at the beginning of this week. But if I'm not around, she's just a kid, not an aberration. Reality. But that understanding was wrong?
In that case, but if we look at it that way, it's not very...
What is it? Stop leaving me out of this. We have a saying in our world, gather 3 men, and you shall have the wisdom of Prajna.
I see. What's Prajnan?
What could it be? I'd been using the word without ever knowing.
There aren't 3 of us anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
1 man and 1 cat meow.
Not 2 men, 1 man, and 1 cat. She wasn't saying that because she could only count to 1, right?
Anyway, human, Nio, I don't think that vampire can be found with just ordinary meow thoughts.
So she might have left town? I know this is just the flip side of what I just said, but, well, if she's that far away from me, I don't think I'd be going too far if I said she couldn't do anything. But if she tried, there was a possibility she'd no longer be able to maintain her existence.
The reason vampires suck blood meow.
What?
Vampires suck human blood, but it means different things when they suck it for food and when they suck it to make companions.
I knew that. I heard that during spring break. But why did this cat know? She only had the intellect of a cat. Oh, of course. Intelligence was different from knowledge. Despite the difference between Hanakawa and Black Hanakawa's intellects, they probably shared some degree of knowledge.
Maybe that's why she ran off.
Huh? How so?
Mro, you're so dense.
Dense? What do you mean?
I'm saying you're obtuse.
Well, I'll agree I'm not the best at reading people's minds.
I'm saying you're obtusely angled.
Don't tell me you're going to need a protractor.
I'm saying that ever since she met you during spring break or whenever, that vampire has seen you getting involved with one aberration after any other. Maybe that didn't feel so great.
You mean, seeing all of those different aberrations, yourself included, made her feel less special? That's why she couldn't stand being around any longer.
So dense.
Dense? I didn't like the word, for some reason.
They say beasts separate themselves from humans when they realize the time has come for them to die. Maybe vampires are the same way?
Don't say ominous things like that.
Are ya really mewing about omens to an aberration? But what are you going to do if you never find that vampire?
What am I going to do? Well, I'd be in trouble. Hanakawa wouldn't be able to turn back to normal, plus,
But that's the only problem. If you admire my master, wouldn't you be better off if that vampire wasn't around?
what was she trying to say? It didn't make any sense to me.
You still have the vague scent of a vampire because she exists. Ya let her drink your blood or something, that's what you said, right? So you can go back to being a simple human if the vampire disappears.
The demon would be a mere human. I could go back. All I had to do was abandon Shinobu. You can't expect me to do that. I could never abandon her. If Hanakawa was my savior, then Shinobu was my victim. She could kill me, and I still wouldn't have any right to complain. What I did to her was that bad.
You say that, but are you sure ya just don't want to give up your immortal body?
That's not it. If she dies tomorrow, I'm ready for my life to last just as long.
I see. That's your empathy speaking.
If you're going to put it like that, then sure, it was just unilateral sentiment. I couldn't complain if Shinobu saw that as annoying or irritating. Or maybe that was why... It could have been why Shinobu left. Also, Kat, the premise of your hypothesis is flawed to begin with. How could I ignore your master? It's impossible. Sorry, but we need to get you back into the deepest reaches of herself. I'm not going to have another golden week.
Oh, but... Human, I wouldn't say it's impossible at all. There's a way to get me back deep inside of her without relying on that vampire at all.
There is? There was a way. If it was quick, that's exactly what I wanted. 10 days was our limit. In other words, it'd be fine so long as we could bring everything to a resolution within 9 days in the worst case, just like last time.
If you want to talk about Golden Week, it was the same then too. I'm an avatar of my master's stress. Get rid of the root of the stress, and I'll disappear once again.
When this hindering cat sent Hanakawa's parents to the hospital using her energy drain, Hanakawa became aware of what was going on as herself. For a brief moment, probably because doing so considerably relieved the stress she felt. It wasn't enough in the end, given all the stress that had piled up and up inside of her, so Black Hanakawa reappeared right afterwards. So, the root of her stress. Ashino brought that up too, but we don't have the time to pin down the root of her stress. It doesn't seem to be her family this time, plus...
Why would you need to pin anything down? I know what it is.
Oh, right. I'd carelessly overlooked that fact. If she was the avatar of Hanakawa's stress, then she'd know the nature of that stress and what the stressor was better than anyone, even Hanakawa herself. That was exactly why she'd attacked Hanakawa's parents first. Wait, but that still leaves us with an issue. Kat, even if we do learn what the stressor is, we don't have any way to get rid of it. It'd become Hanakawa's issue at that point, so... You can't resolve another person's distress, just like with Hanakawa's parents. There was nothing I could do. It was the same with everything else that caused her distress. So it doesn't matter what the stressor is, though I admit I'm curious to know. Is it about what she's doing after graduation, given the timing? Come to think of it, it seems like she had a headache when we were talking about post-graduation plans at the bookstore too. It sounded like she knew what she wanted to do, but maybe in her heart she actually...
It's not about graduation.
It isn't?
Anyway, I think you in particular could easily resolve her distress and all this stress.
Easily?
Mice and easy.
Would Hanakawa get distressed over something that's so easy to resolve? Or I guess its simplicity could be what's giving her such a hard time. Hold on, Kat. What do you mean me in particular? If I could do it, couldn't anyone? But in that case, once again, would she really get distressed over something that anyone could fix? If there was something I could do, Hanakawa herself would be able to as well. I suddenly glanced at the watch on my right wrist. More time had passed. Senjo Gahara would have to be back home by now, but she did say she planned to bring work home with her. So the real struggle was only getting started. Now that I thought about it, Senjo Gahara was probably the only one in our class who could handle what Hanakawa had been dealing with. It seemed like Hanakawa's eye for people was spot on even when she had cat ears growing out of her head. An eye for people, eh? But if that was true, her eyes must have been shut when she installed me as class vice president. Doing that had essentially doubled her workload. Then again, you could increase her workload tenfold, and she'd probably handle it with ease.
Well, ya see, human, my master, she's in love with ya.
Huh?
So, if you love my master back, I should be able to get out of the way. But meow, what's the matter?
My feet halted. Actually, my brain did too. What was that supposed to mean? Are you trying to be funny or something? I can't come up with a quip for every stupid setup, you know? And if that's a joke, it's really too nasty. You need to know there are some things you can lie about and some things that you shouldn't.
You're such a fool, human. Is this the face of someone who can tell a lie?
It wasn't. To be honest, I hated the old line. If I was going to lie to you, I'd tell a more believable lie. Some lies anticipated you'd assume so. But in this case, the hindering cat didn't have the ability to lie to begin with. I've never lied before in my life, Hanakawa told me once, but this was the diametric opposite. The hindering cat couldn't lie, which meant, but if you're not lying, cat, then you must be mistaken. There's no way that could be true.
What makes you think that? How could I ever misunderstand my master? She's my one and only master.
But Hanakawa, she was kind to everyone. The worse someone was as a person, the more sympathy she showed. That's why she picked me of all people, and that's why during spring break too. You only understand things that have to do with her stress. I know you might share her knowledge, but there must be some things you can't access. It's impossible. Why would Hanakawa? No. Then again, Senjogahara had once tried to trick me into telling her how I felt about Hanakawa back when Senjogahara was like a mass of self-defensiveness and caution. If that Senjogahara tested a hunch, wasn't there some basis to it?
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. That's what the stress was. My master is in love with ya, but you're dating someone else. And you've been flaunting it.
Headaches starting about a month ago. So she said, a month ago from now would be right Mother's Day, the day Senjogahara and I started going out, and Hanakawa knew about us from that very day. The class president, there was nothing she didn't know. She knew everything. But Hanakawa never acted that way. If anything, it was like she was cheering us on, giving me advice and stuff.
That's exactly why the stress kept building up. Do you really think my master would ever be able to snatch away a taken man? She's fair and just, clean and pure. She values harmony over everything. She thinks it's natural to sacrifice herself for the sake of others. She wouldn't ever breathe a word.
Love means never having to say sorry. But not everyone could do that. So I was asking someone like that for advice and having her cheer me on. It was the same when I had to deal with Kanbaru too. And even when we were at the bookstore, it wasn't just graduation we were talking about. But Senjogahara, I was choosing what to do next with her in mind. Hanakawa's headaches didn't abate. They only got worse and worse. I felt sick. What had I done? But how could I have noticed? I mean, Hanakawa, if that woman made a serious attempt to hide her own feelings, even Senjogahara wouldn't be able to suss them out. But dense. So her plans after graduation too. Ashino must have had some influence on her, but you could also look at it as Tsubasa Hanakawa's grand heartbreak journey, and she started showing signs of a headache right after we talked about post-graduation plans. Plus, there was the time she closed her eyes, her lips turned up to me. When did it start?
Around spring break. I don't know exactly what her heart was going through then, since it was before I ever appeared, but my master was living in an environment that put her under constant stress. Your story of humans and vampires was so preposterous that Yab must have seemed to have the power to break her out of her predicament.
Break her out? How could I? My hands were so full then that
Though I don't think you could say there were Nio signs at all. My master was close to perfect when it came to that, but she must have let her guard down here and there since it was a matter of love. Ya never found it odd that a dead serious class president would choose a vice president like you. Any normal person would realize that was a wrong pick.
oh, well. Yes, she had picked the wrong person for the job. There'd been a reason.
Assuming you were a delinquent and trying to rehabilitate. Yes, sounds like a reason that's not much of a reason at all.
That's back then in early April, when Hanakawa appointed me as her vice president, after half pushing her recommendation through a decent amount of opposition, her pick generated a fair amount of backlash. I was so intimately involved in the affair that I didn't see it that way then, and I'd unreservedly bought Hanakawa's line that people mature when they're put in positions of responsibility. But actually, didn't she hate that kind of push by way of authority more than anything? Then why?
Why else? Because she wanted to be with you as much as possible. Third-year class presidents and vice presidents get to work together to prepare for the last culture festival of their high school lives, me after all. But she stopped trying that on you a month ago. The romance my master slowly built up and up, one piece at a time, ended there. Maya haha. No, should I say that's when it really got started?
When it happened, Hanakawa was happy for me. Or so I thought. But that was another lie? She'd never lied before in her life? If this was true, Tabasa Hanakawa, you've been lying through your teeth.
To be honest, I think my master was careless. She all but never thought a rival would ever appear. If only my master had known that you're kind to everyone the same way ya were to her during Golden Week. If only she'd considered that someone else might get saved by you, just like she was. I know my master is smart enough to have acted sooner. The woman you're dating didn't waste a moment in comparison, right?
Yeah, that's true. Senjo Gahara didn't hesitate. She went in for the kill as soon as she made up her mind, to the point that the normal reaction was to feel creeped out.
A girl raised in a cold and loveless home. During spring break, she encountered something shocking and unusual, and that something also happened to be her classmate. It felt almost like fate. Feelings of love started to bud. And then her own life was saved by that classmate turning that love into something certain, or something. Nya ya ha 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 ya no, my master would obviously be the protagonist if it were a girl's manga, but the way it all got snatched away from her, I don't know if I should call it perfect or pathetic.
No one strikes faster than Senjo Gahara. She could start later than everyone else, and not even think of it as a handicap. Or, she moved with almost hasty speed on Mother's Day because she was sensitive enough to Hanakawa's intentions even to be testing a hunch. That might also explain the strange distance she maintained vis-a-vis Hanakawa, but that wasn't Senjo Gahara's fault. That kind of thing isn't a competition to begin with.
Whatever the case, it's all too late. Nayo, my master, isn't the kind of person who could ever steal from any other, but how pure. It was supposed to be the kind of love you read about in girls' manga, but it turned into longing for a taken man in no time flat, ending up as an illicit and unrequited love. And she felt guilty about it. Meow.
Well, she's a serious person. She couldn't be open about how head over heels she was about someone. Unlike Sengoku's tormentor. But that didn't mean coming to a neat compromise with her feelings either. She wasn't the kind of person who could bargain and settle with herself.
She must have had her regrets too, if only she'd confessed her feelings sooner. But it's Neot, an early cat gets the bird kind of thing. And humans who think that way are petty, ridiculous, and boring.
But she never breathed a word about it. She cheered me on and humored me when I needed advice. Is that what had been going on? All the time she was cheering me on and giving me advice, she was talking about her own feelings. Of course she would have opinions regarding the subtleties of romance and relations between the sexes. A girl in love would better than anyone else.
That's also why you triggered my master's stress during Golden Week. You might have been the one person she didn't want knowing Mao.
Then, be there when she needed me? Far from it. At that moment, I was the last person she needed, the greatest hindrance.
You're so dense that you didn't show any signs of noticing my master's affection or her turmoil, and her stress just continued to build. If you ask me, I'm impressed. She lasted a month.
Wait, Kat. Hold on. Are you sure? That's right? Even if you're right and I was the cause of her stress's stas. If I wasn't merely the trigger during Golden Week, but also the very bullet that tore through her guts, that wouldn't be enough to make you appear, would it? I was only part of it at most, and there must have been some other powerful stressor that...
Niobe, it was all you. As far as her parents go, my master considers that somewhat settled after Golden Week. Ya might not understand, though.
But that doesn't make sense. You're the incarnation of the stress that kept building up inside of her because of her family. If it was only over a couple of months of romance, why would you...
Only? Is there some reason a few months of exacerbated heartbreak shouldn't be allowed to surpass 10 odd years of family strife?
I haven't led the happiest life up until now. But I think I could call it all even if I see it as what let me meet you. If it was my unhappiness that caught your attention, then I'm glad it happened that way. Those were Senjo Gahara's words. But...
You look like you don't get it. Human not. Could it actually be that you've never really fallen in love with anybody?
What?
Are you sure you're not just going out with that girl because that's what she insisted on? If so, you ought to break up right away and go out with my master instead. That would make me disappear too. You'd be just as happy dating anyone, wouldn't ya?
Maybe I should have gotten angry here. Maybe I shouldn't have stayed silent after being so blatantly provoked. And really, if I hadn't been talking to someone who looked like Tsubasa Hanakawa, I think I would have. But it was Hanakawa saying this. I felt like I had no right to get angry. Point 1 can't do that, Cat.
Herm, why not? You think of my master as your savior, so shouldn't you be repaying the favor? At the end of the day, are your feelings of love more important than your feelings of gratitude?
If I let that happen, Hanekawa would be taking advantage of my gratitude. I'm not going to put her in that position. No, that's not it. That's just a convenient excuse. It's simpler than that. I can't lie about my feelings for Senjogahara. And even if I did, wouldn't Hanekawa see right through it? I'm bad at telling lies, and I'm bad at hiding things. I'm flimsy and weak. I couldn't deceive Hanekawa even if I wanted. I didn't want to, of course. And while a part of me might have wanted to if I could, just to do it, I couldn't. 'Tis not an issue of me accepting it and sticking it out. There really isn't a thing I can do it about her right. It's not like Hanekawa would want to go out with me if I was doing that, either.
Tease that so. Actually, I felt myself fading a teeny bit just now when I told you how my master feels. It's clearly relieving her of her stress. No one's beautiful through and through. Not even my master. See how I lurk beneath her? You might be surprised. Maybe she'd love it and wouldn't mind at all. It could be painful at first, but completely fine once she's used to it.
Once she's used to it, are you really saying that? If it were that simple, Hanekawa wouldn't have worried you all the way into existence. She's not the kind of person who could push someone else aside for her own sake. She couldn't put herself ahead of another. It's that fact about her that makes me feel so indebted. I probably would have said yes before Mother's Day. Yes, I cared for her then as a friend. But I can't do it now. My feelings are frozen in place for only one person now, and it's Senjogahara. You asked me if love is more important to me than gratitude, but I can't put either one ahead of the other. It's a double bind. That's why I can't choose Hanekawa. Wouldn't the normal choice between the two be Miss Hinkiowa? That's what Hachikuji said? She wondered why I chose Miss Senjogahara. It struck her as odd. Why? How was I supposed to answer that one? It's everything about Senjogahara, including her personality, that I love. Yes, I love everything about her. There's not a part of her that I don't love. It's the first time in my life I've really fallen in love with someone.
Really? Niao.
Black Hanekawa backed down casually, like she knew from the start what I was going to say. Maybe she did. She was Hanekawa. Maybe she saw it all coming. She knows everything. No, not everything. And also, Cat, even if a few months of exacerbated heartbreak surpassed 10-odd years of family strife, that still isn't a reason for her to bring you out. She should have endured those headaches, like it or not. And not just this time, but during Golden Week too. She relied on you out of weakness. She may not have been flimsy, but weakness was weakness. Even if it wasn't the result she wanted, the weakness she ran to was the aggressors. It's not you who should be saying those words to me. It's Hanekawa. All she did was force the unpleasant work on you. Like the time with Sengoku Snake. That's what I did to Kanbaru. I put off a painful decision and entrusted it to someone else. That was just having your cake and eating it too. You're a hindering cat, an aberration. But an aberration that appeared out of Hanekawa's weakness. She may not have wished for what you gave her, but what you gave her was what she wanted. Everything you did, Hanekawa did. I know, of course. Hanekawa has her reasons. And I know this isn't something I should be saying given that I share some responsibility for both times, but I'm pretty sure there are people in similar environments who manage to get out of them on their own, without relying on any aberration. The fact that Hanekawa relied on something like you is an insult to all of them.
Well. Listen to you. I guess you have a right to say that it's okay for you. You're a kind soul who'd even sacrifice himself to save a vampire on the brink of death. Being kind to everyone means ya don't have anyone special, I know, because my master is kind to everyone too. Well, okay, nothing I can do. Ya can't change someone's feelings. I found that out last time. I found out and learned.
Tom, glad to hear that. So we were just going to have to find Shinobu after all. No surprise that there was no convenient solution. But I wonder if it's also the case for Hanekawa. If it is, then attacking her like I just did might be a little harsh.
What you talking about?
Oh, I might be a mockery of one, but I'm still kind of like a vampire. And vampires have this ability, the power of fascination, which is why I've been so popular with girls ever since spring break. You must know about this. Hanekawa was the one who told me.
We might share knowledge, but we don't share meowmeries. Like you said, I only know about things related to her stress.
Oh, right. Still, I was already a vampire when I met Hanekawa. And not any mockery either, it was before I became human again. During my genuine, full-fledged vampire days, You couldn't begin to compare my powers of fascination and whatever else now to the ones I had. Hanakawa fell face first into the middle of that. She's a serious girl. If that's why she started brooding over me, I think it'd make her a complete victim side men say.
What's wrong? Why'd you go quiet? Neo, that's Neo true. Yes, it's true that vampires can charm people, but even among true vampires, only certain types have that ability. So there's Neo way a knockoff vampire like you who went from human to vampire could ever use it.
What? But
And fascination isn't like some handy love potion you might see in a manga anyway. The targets lose control of their will. It's the power to make puppets out of people.
make puppets out of them? Not enthrall them?
Tell me, human, is there a girl around you who's perfectly obedient to your orders? Someone that does exactly what you tell them, never once defying you?
There wasn't a single person like that. There absolutely wasn't. Even Sengoku, the most docile of the bunch, inflicted unthinkable acts on me like handing me volleyball shorts and a school swimsuit in front of my own high school's gates. But was the aberration saying that based on Hanakawa's knowledge? After all, it was Hanakawa herself who told me that was mean of me, wasn't? Oh, that's what she meant. It was a lie, something she claimed never to tell. In that case, I knew what that meant about me and Senjogahara, but Hanakawa, too. But given what I now knew, it seemed less like a case of being mean than a sort of lament to Basa Hanakawa's doleful wish for that to have been our reality. She'd have been able to relieve some of her stress had it been the case, because she could blame it on an outside force. But there was no one else for her to blame.
Yeah, can't change someone's feelings, meow. I see, though. That wasn't like my master to do. Looks like not being able to lie caused me to let the cat out of the bag.
Guess it's another instance of forcing the hard work on you. It wasn't a good thing. The relief I felt, though, overshadowed that. It wasn't thanks to any vampires, any aberration's power. It was me, as myself. It was because I'm Koyomi Araragi. So, I can feel proud. That Hanakawa fell in love with me. What was that if not an honor? I felt like that fact alone was enough to keep me going. But to think that things would turn out like this, what would I have to do at this point to repay Hanakawa? Well, for now, we need to focus on tucking you away. Damn it, where did Shinobu run off to? I haven't heard a word from anyone helping either. Oh, and I need to order Sengoku to pull back soon. Wait, how would I do that? She didn't have a cell phone. Oh no. She could use a payphone to contact me, but I had no way to contact her. What was I going to do? She could be stubborn in her own weird way, so she wasn't going to head home of her own accord without finding Shinobu, no matter how late it got. Maybe, Kanbaru, I could get her to temporarily stop looking for Shinobu and try to find Sengoku instead. Was that going to be it? Why was I always having to rely on her when it mattered the most? I wouldn't ever be able to pay Kanbar back at this rate. I was feeling ready to do anything she told me.
Hey, human.
I had my cell phone in hand as Black Hanakawa spoke to me. Her tone seemed somehow different from every utterance she'd made so far.
There's one more way.
One more?
A quick and effective way to get me back in there without relying on any vampire. The easiest way is for you to date my master, but this might be the second easiest.
Tell have my doubts about any plans you and your brain would come up with, but it'll listen. What is it?
Walk for me a bit, over there, to below that street lamp.
Like this? I did as she said. I wasn't getting my hopes up, but I needed to try any plan I could get my hands on. Still, I didn't see what moving a dozen feet would do.
Ah, a little to the front. You'd be right below it otherwise.
Right below? I tilted my head as she continued to talk nonsensically, but still took a step forward, and then she embraced me from behind. There was no sound of her footsteps. There was no sound at all. She had moved like a cat on the hunt. She passed both of her arms under my armpits and wrapped them around my torso as she held me. A sababori. No, a sababori is done from the front, and it's used to bring an opponent to his knees, not to crush his internal organs, and it's not used to drain an opponent's energy. And instantaneously it was being absorbed. Whatever clothes we may have been wearing didn't matter. Those two large cushions didn't matter. I could rapidly feel my entire body weakening. See, cat, you. Get. I didn't have the energy to turn my head toward her. I didn't even feel like I could scream the way Hachikuji had when I'd done the same to her that morning. I couldn't lift a pinky, but I didn't need to look behind me to know it was Black Hanakawa holding me. My moving away from her had been a ruse. All she wanted was for me to turn my back to her, to let my guard down, so she could suck me dry.
Remember what I said. Don't ever think you've gotten used to us. Humans can't ever get along with us, no matter what.
Gah. Erg. Err.
The more we play nice with you humans, the worse off we are. Looks like we know who the bigger idiot is, Nayal.
It was true, I hated to admit it, but the hindering cat was right. The situation was already hopeless. I could never put up a fight against the hindering cat even if I faced her head on. All I had were some lingering after effects of being an aberration. I had no means to oppose an actual one. But to make it worse, she had come from behind. It seemed ridiculous. But what are you trying to do? Why do this to me here and now? It's not as if absorbing just me would get rid of Hanekawa's stress.
Like I said, it's one more plan about the second easiest. Of course, it's the sharpest one from my perspective.
I say lick, but the feeling wasn't what I'd call sensual. Cat tongues are barbed in order to scrape meat from bones. The skin on my neck was torn from my flesh, and I could feel my blood gushing.
You're the cause of the stress, it's you who's the stressor. Get rid of you, and I don't need to be here anymore. It's not just you I'm absorbing, you're the only one I need. Yeah, my Nayot be able to change someone's feelings, but you can erase someone's existence.
That's her ability to drain energy. There'd been no case of it being bad enough to kill someone, but that by no means meant that it couldn't. No human could have their energy and their core exhausted and continue living. But would this make your master happy, Black Hanekawa?
My master doesn't remember anything I do, okay? She won't think of it as something she did herself. She'll be sad if you're gone, of course, but even then it'd be better than now. I can feel it sucking you dry like this is making me fade away.
Two, I thought you said you'd learned after you attacked Hanekawa's parents over Golden Week. It still wasn't enough. A person's stress isn't that simple of a...
No, that's Neot. It my mistake then was Neot killing my master's parents. I went wrong when I tried to be considerate in some weird way to my master. Not killing anybody was what I did wrong. That's what I learned. And I'm Neot going to make the same mistake again. I'm killing you, no matter what.
Kill me! I couldn't believe the words. I couldn't believe the words were coming out of Hanekawa's mouth, but perhaps even these were her own, coming from somewhere inside of her. Flip it around, and the reverse was the obverse. In that case, Hanekawa in fact might feel happy about this. She'd never wish for this to happen. That thought might have been nothing more than an illusion I projected on her. It could have been the result she wanted. She might be getting this, because it's what she wished for. The hindering cat's earlier proposal of going out with Hanekawa, even if it meant lying, had to have come from somewhere inside of her. Hanekawa. In that case, this would be a good way. She'd saved my life. I'd do anything for her sake. I may not be able to change how I feel, but I could think that I wouldn't mind dying.
Ja, ought to be happy I'd get to die in the embrace of my maester's naughty body. Niao shrivel in bliss.
It was going to be hard for me to feel that way while all of the feeling was leaving my body. And anyway, my most immediate sensation was the pain in my torso, from the sharp claws at the end of those arms around me stabbing into my abs. But even then, if I could die for Hanekawa's sake. No, I couldn't. I couldn't do it. There was what Senjogahara had said, so I couldn't let myself be killed. If Hanekawa killed me, or even if Hanekawa's body killed me, Senjogahara would kill her in turn. This was no projected illusion, this was certainty. Senjogahara wouldn't hesitate, I knew that. And there'd be no way to prevent it when it came to that. Senjogahara wouldn't even give Hanekawa the time to feel stressed, so I couldn't do it. This was the absolute worst way possible. Let me go.
Hmm?
Just let me go. I didn't have room to explain. The hindering cat didn't know Senjogahara. No, she'd have had some knowledge of her, but Hanekawa's knowledge of Senjogahara was limited. Unless you knew her as well as I did, or at least as well as Kanbaru did, you wouldn't recognize the danger Hitagi Senjogahara posed, but I'd be like a sheet of paper floating in the wind by the time I spelled it all out.
Begging for your life. That's good. I wouldn't mind letting you free if Yesei you'll go out with my master.
Gah. Like I said, that's impossible.
One thought as Mayuk. Fine then, just die. Or do you want to try asking someone for help? You've saved so many people up until now. Maybe someone might come save you.
Someone? Like who? Hachikuji? Sengoku? Kanbaru? Senjogahara? There's no way anyone could save me.
No? Why not?
Because people just go and get saved on their own.
That's nigh out your own opinion, is it? Those are just words, nigh out how you feel. If you're just parroting the words of others, it barely means a thing. The question is how you feel, meow.
Grr. Grr.
Yes, people do go and get saved on their own, but why should people who help others care? They can go and save as many people as they please. Tell me, how many people do you think are out there who want to help you? And are you going to reject every single one of them?
The strength left my body. I couldn't stay standing anymore. It was like Black Hanekawa's arms wrapped around my body were the only thing supporting me, like I'd entrusted my body to her completely. My mind grew hazy too. I could do nothing. I could do nothing on my own. It made me want to laugh, but I didn't have the strength for that either. I didn't have the strength, but still, I wanted to laugh. Yeah, I guess she would be sad. Hanekawa and Senjogahara too, and Kanbaru and Senjogu, maybe even Hachikuji. If I died. Help. Help. Shinobu. At that moment, a single girl leapt out from my own shadow. A blonde. A helmet with goggles on top. She had a small build, but she tore Black Hanekawa's HUD from my body in the blink of an eye. A breath later, and she'd sent Black Hanekawa's body flying. The cat couldn't even turn its body in the air and slammed into the lamp on the opposite side of the street. The streetlight bent. No, it wasn't that hard. But the impact was enough to make it sway. Then she landed. Shinobu Oshino leapt out from the shadows and landed as she shook her blonde hair everywhere she pleased. Shinobu. She was hiding there, but when I thought about it, that was about the only possible place left. It was impossible not to have received so much as a report of a sighting after searching this town for so long, and the hindering cat's sense of smell shouldn't have failed so utterly. So, I should have assumed what followed, that she was using some kind of vampire ability, but I'd convinced myself that she couldn't because her abilities were limited. No. There was a hole in my logic. I'd known, hadn't I? She could use a little bit of her powers if she was near me, which meant she had to be hiding near me. That was all there was to it. A psychological blind spot, one of the fundamentals of the mystery novel. If you want to hide something, hide it in plain view. Not only that, the hiding spot was extremely effective against a cat's sense of smell too, because her scent would be masked by mine. My presence was weak and in the background. Shinobu took advantage of that. It was probably in the afternoon, or maybe the momming. As I was looking for Shinobu, she found me first. To make a random guess, I'd say it was around the Mr. Donut, and that's where Shinobu hid in my shadow. She belonged to the world of darkness, and hiding in someone's shadow was a vampire specialty, but that was the old her. Now mine might have been the only shadow she could hide in. Oh, right below it, that's what she meant. Because that would cause my shadow to be directly below me, so telling me to go under the streetlight, it was obvious who would win in a fight between a hindering cat and a mockery of a human like me, and there was no need for her to go to the trouble of attacking me from behind. She didn't have to toy around with any complicated plans, she needed only to attack me fair and square. Which meant I looked over to Black Hanekawa as she sat cowering under the streetlight. Black Hanekawa grinned, but that too was only for a moment. Shinobu had no mercy. The moment after the hindering cat landed, Shinobu sprung toward her and attacked. Extending her short limbs as far as they could go, she entwined them around Black Hanekawa's body and sunk her teeth into her neck. Black Hanekawa never stood a chance. From there, Shinobu sucked. If a hindering cat had the ability to drain energy, so did a vampire. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, an aberration for an aberration, an energy drain for an energy drain. Even then, Shinobu's vitality was being sucked away by the hindering cat, simply because the two were touching. But Shinobu was sucking away even more vitality from the hindering cat. As utter food. As aberrations, a hindering cat and a vampire are made from different stuff. The scene was a rehash of what I witnessed during Golden Week, a perfect recreation, though it took quite a fitting amount of hardship that time to force her into this position. Black Hanekawa wasn't fighting back this time, because she had neither the chance nor the will now. While there was no way to prevent her always-on energy drain, the hindering cat was surrendering to Shinobu. If she felt like it, she had the strength, endurance, and mobility to take on Shinobu as she was now, and only as she was now. And yet, for Hanekawa, it was for her master. Of course, I shouldn't pretend that I understood. Just as Black Hanekawa said, I couldn't act like I was used to them, too familiar or overfamiliar, and I find it hard to believe that it was what Black Hanekawa wanted from the beginning. While her intelligence might have been that of a cat, she must have realized that Shinobu could be hiding in my shadow, and also that there was no easy way to lure her out. To that end, she'd used me as bait, as a hostage, moving me under a street lamp where my shadow would be isolated even at night, before using her energy drain on me. That much was clear. But would Black Hanakawa not have minded really killing me there? If Shinobu wasn't hiding in my shadow and truly had left town, would she have been fine sucking up my entire existence? It only happened to end up this way. She didn't have the brain to tell a lie. Everything the hindering cat said she meant. It was how she really felt, and it was also how Hanakawa felt inside. The hard work that she was forcing on the hindering cat. She was right. Looks like we knew. Ah. Black Hanakawa's hair gradually regained its color. It turned gray, then brown, then black. Her cat ears too slowly dwindled. That existence, the aberration, was being sucked away by Shinobu. Aberration Slayer. That was the curse spat at Shinobu until spring break. Whether it was a hindering cat or anything else, she sunk her fangs in and sucked, ripping its very existence out from the world. A genuine, full-fledged aberrant creature, a vampire, the king of aberrations, the ruler of unlife. Time to stop, please, Shinobu. Stop. If you keep sucking, Hanakawa will be gone too, and I don't want that. And when I said those words, Shinobu moved away from Hanakawa's neck with surprising nonchalance. Hanakawa's neck had 2 clear fang marks carved into it, but I didn't need to worry about those. It was different from the bite mark on my own nape. Unlike with me, Shinobu only sucked the hindering cat's vitality in order to feed. She was simply eating. Vampires suck human blood, but it means different things when they suck it for food and when they suck it to create thralls. Maybe that was why Shinobu ran off. So said the hindering cat, the aberration that had just been sucked away. Shinobu plodded back toward me, done with her meal, and sank right back into my shadow. Had she taken a liking to it, living in my shadow? And then, it was just me and a black-haired Hanakawa. She wasn't conscious. Her eyes shut, she was sleeping. She probably wouldn't wake up until the next morning. And with that, the incident was settled. But that, of course, didn't mean the problem was solved. We had rid her of the hindering cat, but nothing else had changed. We had only eliminated the hindering cat, and not her stress itself. Not only that, this new stress had taken shape over a little more than a month, so there was no small chance it would reappear. Even if it didn't, Hanakawa had her long-standing family issues, so no, that wasn't true. Putting her family stuff aside, what happened this time was an issue I could do something about. I could make things a little easier for Hanakawa starting from the very next day, all depending on how I behaved. Of course, I didn't think I could change the way I felt, but those feelings of wanting to repay her were certainly my own. I wanted to save Hanakawa. Her given name conjured up images of taking others under her wing, but that didn't mean I couldn't take her under mine. I'd go and save her as I pleased, no matter what anyone said, just as I pleased. A sigh left my lips. I did have to admit, though, I was tired. My energy had been drained down close to its limit, after all. Even my mock vampire body seemed like it was going to need time to recover. I doubted I'd be able to budge until the next morning, too. Sheesh. And I needed to be thanking everyone who'd helped me out. Well, it would be fine. I did get to see Hanakawa in her pajamas. Going back to the north wind and the sun, this made me closer to the north wind. But there was no better sight than a black-haired, slow-breathing Hanakawa in her pajamas under a street lamp, as though a spotlight had been placed on her. Not only did her present state make me twice as happy, it felt like you could double my joy again on top of that. As compensation for the day's hard labor, it was bliss. Spending the night with Hanakawa there, as I saw her from the side of the road, didn't seem so bad now. The stars in the sky, they were so beautiful after all. Like she was talking in her sleep.
Araragi.
Or maybe she wasn't talking in her sleep as much as words were spilling from her mouth in her hazy state of mind. Shinobu had sucked only the hindering cat's existence from her, so perhaps she still had trouble separating Black Hanakawa and Hanakawa in her head, putting her in a state where the two intermingled. So she wasn't talking in her sleep, she was giving voice to her feelings. Sabesa Hanakawa's unadorned, honest feelings were spilling from her lips.
What do you mean paying me back is more important to you than our friendship? Don't say that. What a sad, lonely thing to say.
Hanakawa kept her eyes closed, as she murmured the words.
Araragi, you need to shape up.
And then, she fell back into a deep sleep. My goodness, even when she sleeps, serious until the end, a master in the field. It was no time to be worried about someone else. Even so, my reply to her was immediate and candid, like a conditioned reflex. I hadn't been trained by Hanakawa in the 2 months since becoming a third year for nothing. Despite it all, I knew how I needed to reply. Okay? The epilogue. Or maybe, the punchline of this story. The next day, I was roused from bed as usual by my little sisters Karen and Tsukihi. I thought, tilting my head, which is when it came back to me. Right, I ended up not spending the night there on the side of the road. While that was dangerously close to happening, dangerously feels like the wrong word when I think about Hanekawa in her pajamas. Maybe I should use a word that better celebrates my fortune instead. Suruga Kanbaru came storming in at an incredible speed using Takiodo, or a flash step, while holding B to dash, or whatever it was she did, after a bit of time passed. After doing everything in my power to stop Kanbaru's throbbing heart this is Hanekawa. That senior I've heard so much about, I asked her to take Hanekawa back home. With how complicated her family situation is, it would be easier to come up with an excuse if a second-year girl took her home instead of me. A boy saying it had something to do with the culture festival should be enough of a reason. No, even if that weren't the case, I didn't have the strength yet to walk her home. So I asked Kanbaru, could you call my two sisters? I'll give you their number. I also asked her to look for Sengoku, but Kanbaru had met her a little earlier and had her go home because it was getting late. So, she was pretty sharp herself. When I asked to make sure she hadn't seduced Sengoku, Kanbaru showed me an embarrassed smile. Hold on. That kind of smile wasn't the right answer. And so, just as Kanbaru and Sengoku had done for me on Monday, my two little sisters supported me from both sides as we headed home. And then I slept. You've been getting into too much trouble lately, Koyomi, the older of the two, reprimanded me. There was nothing I could say in my defense. Though at the same time, those two are the last people I'd want to hear that from. Anyway, the next morning, I headed toward the abandoned cram school before going to school to deliver Shinobu, who'd been hiding in my shadow ever since, back to Oshino. I never did figure out why she absconded in the first place. I could ask her, but she wouldn't reply, and she of course wasn't saying anything on her own. I could come up with a whole list of guesses, but it also felt like all of them were wrong. It could have even been that she wanted to make me sweat for troubling her too often lately. But that might be another wrong guess. Ashino wasn't at the abandoned cram school. He seemed to be out. Come to think of it, I didn't know what Ashino's intentions were either. Why did he let the hindering cat get away? Maybe she really did slip away when he wasn't looking. But he also could have turned a blind eye. Either way, it was the one time I found it impossible to believe he could have seen every single twist coming. He might have predicted that I'd act as a mousetrap by going out to find Shinobu, and that she'd hide in my shadow. But why would he want the hindering cat to bite me? Black Hanekawa had the intelligence of a cat, so what was the probability that she'd arrive at the truth of the situation? However, I had to say there was one thing he must have known: the root of Hanekawa's stress. He already knew by the time he asked his first question. It wasn't that Oshino was special, it was just that I was so dense. I was obtuse. Less acute than anything I'd come across all day. But if he wasn't around, he wasn't around. If you can't help it, you can't help it. And so I headed toward school, with Shinobu still hiding in my shadow. I did feel hesitant about bringing her to school, but I hesitated even more to leave a vampire who now had a record of absconding alone by herself. I met Hanekawa in class.
Oh, you're later than usual.
Well, I took a detour on the way.
Feeling well?
Feeling great.
Good morning.
Good morning. That was it. I still don't know how much of her memory she lost as Hanekawa, nor what she retains. I would have to ask her some time, but that time wasn't now. She needed some space to put her mind back in order. As always, Senjogahara arrived at school, moments before classes started, as if she'd calculated it, so as not to waste a single moment.
Welcome home.
Thanks.
When's our next date? You plan it out, Araragi. I'll skin you if you take me anywhere lame.
Roger that. In fact, I wanted to. I'd show Senjogahara my treasure this time. And Crab too. We had to go eat some eventually. After classes, we prepared for the culture festival, the last one of my high school life. It was getting so close I could taste it, and today was the last day of preparations. Even Senjogahara didn't skip today, and helped us strive toward our goal. It sounded like everyone stayed at school until some ridiculously late hour the day before, but now that Hanekawa, the class president, was back, the work proceeded at a completely different level of efficiency, and all of our classmates were free to go just before school officially closed for the day. From there, I decided to give the abandoned cram school another visit and took along with me Senjogahara, Hanekawa, and also Kanbaru, who'd been waiting for us. I was the only one with a bike, so I pushed it and we all walked together. Ashino wasn't there, yet again. That's strange, Senjogahara said. That man acts like he sees it all coming, and he isn't around for 2 of your visits in a row. It made me realize that, if anything was strange, it was that Senjogahara had come with me to meet Ashino, even if I had invited her. Maybe she already sensed this would happen. Maybe she'd figured it out by the time I explained it to her. The four of us split up and searched every nook and cranny of the cram school. But Oshino was nowhere to be found. When we looked closely, very closely however, it seemed that a few things were missing from inside the building, and they were all Oshino's belongings. It was clear now, Meme Oshino was gone. Without leaving behind a single note, he'd left our town. Now it made sense. When I'd biked to the cram school with Hanakawa the day before, it hadn't been to find Shinobu that he'd been outside. He'd been in the middle of packing up. He must have been undoing that spiritual boundary he'd set around the place. On that occasion, I hadn't been waited for. The ruined shrine on top of the mountain Ashino's interest in this town must have reached its endpoint when that case was settled. It was one of his biggest goals. That's how he described it. His collecting and researching would someday come to an end. He would leave this town someday, and that turned out to be now. I'm not going to disappear all of a sudden one day without even saying goodbye. I'm an adult. I do know my manners. Why didn't I notice? He was already saying goodbye with those words. How could you understand them any other way? He was a man who never said goodbye, who couldn't deal with parting ways, an awkward, tactless man, and it was the most earnest show of affection he could manage, honestly. I really was dull. I should have been able to figure that out. There's no time, he told me. So that was about Shinobu. He looked the other way when Shinobu left too. He knew, and he let her get away. He probably hadn't actively encouraged her, but he must have seen it as a fine opportunity. The hindering cat joined the fray at a good moment, which is to say, a bad one, and so he just retroactively added her to the story. In other words, he saw Shinobu's disappearance as a test for me, or rather, as a sort of parting gift. He became sure of something or another when I ran off to find Shinobu, and after he let the hindering cat escape, he must have gathered his things and left. He was sure that I'd managed to do something about both Shinobu and Hanakawa on my own. That Hawaiian-shirted bastard, trying to act so suave, he wasn't making me think he was cool. A day had already passed, so Ashino must have already wandered into another town where he was busy with his collecting and researching. Who knew, maybe he was saving someone from an attacking aberration as he happened to pass by. Yes, he was probably saving someone. Wata?
Yeah.
Totally.
No mistake, Kanbaru agreed. And then, all four of us in unison. Chump. Mimoshino. A frivolous, cynical, vulgar, mean, arrogant, superficial, malicious, insincere, dramatic, jesting, capricious, selfish, lying, dishonest, and endlessly good and kind person. And so, we each returned to our homes. Kanbaru left first, then Hanakawa split off, and then I walked Senjogahara home. There, for the first time, which is to say at last, Senjogahara treated me to her cooking. As far as my thoughts on the taste and her skills, well, let's say it was a smart move for her to leave it up to my imagination for so long. I will probably encounter more aberrations in my life. I can't pretend they never happened and I can't forget them. But that's fine. I know that there's darkness in the world and that things live in the darkness. For example, in my own shadow. A blonde kid who seems very cozy there. It was getting late by the time I got home, so I ate dinner, took a bath, and went straight to sleep. My two sisters would surely wake me up the next morning, just like they always do. Tomorrow was finally the culture festival. Our class was putting on a haunted house,